This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1600, Comic Talk.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Chris Eberly.
And I'm Danny O'Brien.
Comic Geek Speak.
And welcome to the show, episode 1600.
Boom.
Yes.
Numbered episode.
Numbered
of course.
episode.
If you take into account all of the spin-offs, specials, other things, I should have been prepared again and got an actual number. It's easily closer to 1900 episodes.
Okay.
Wow. So what? Well, because there was that crazy period of time we were doing 5 shows a week.
We're damn near to it.
We're now more or less 1 show a week. So
Yeah.
They're just a little more comfortable for everyone involved.
right.
Listeners included.
Yeah. Yes. So
I have a question. When you did 5 shows a week, did you record 5 in one shot or do them throughout the
Two
week?
nights.
It was-
2 nights a week. A
Sunday
Sunday and a
and Monday.
Monday.
it was Sunday and Monday nights.
Yep.
It was
2 to 3
usually
episodes.
3 and 2, whether depended on some of the.
Once in a blue moon, I guess we would do 3 per night, but that didn't happen often.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Couldn't have happened often.
Yeah. If at all. I mean, that's just my own little head remembering.
Yes,
Probably wrong.
back in the days.
Let us revel in the fact that Shane is joining us. Magnificent, sir. Good to see you.
Huzzah.
Yes, Easter's over. Kids' activities have died down for a short while. I'm happy to be calmer.
So in this episode, we're going to cover a myriad of topics. We're going to talk mostly about the DC Rebirth announcements that recently went down at WonderCon. As we record this, is actually the Tuesday after that. This episode won't go up, I think, until the first Monday in April, probably. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Batman Superman movie that recently came out. Most of us have seen it. We'll have some discussion on that. Perhaps some Daredevil discussion, some other things, and other picture postcards. But first, a word from our sponsor.
And that sponsor happens to be one of our earliest sponsors, our friends at the Collection Drawer Company, makers of the Drawer Box, the easy access storage solution, which is a cardboard long box for the storage of comic books, but instead of opening from the top via a removable lid, it opens from the front via a drawer that pulls out of the front of the box, making it that much easier to access your collection without moving boxes around to access those boxes that are on the bottom. It's a great space-saving solution for those of you who have got a lot of comic books at home and would like to stack them vertically instead of taking up more floor space than they ought. And they also make other products that are good for the storage of action figures, LP records, sewing supplies, magazines, you name it. And they also produce a number of accessories that enhance their already great products. So if you'd visit collectiondrawer.com, you can read more about it and support them as they have supported us and give them your business as we've given them our business.
Yes.
And one thing to add to that, don't they have like box locks? Your comics don't fall forward when they're in the box?
They do indeed, Chris.
Yeah. That's a great touch.
We have a little bit of CGS mail. Shane, you want to go through the package you got in the mail here, introducing to the studio?
Okay. I've got a piece here, too.
Yeah,
This is cool.
You're next.
Inside, from Disney and Lucasfilm Press.
There you go.
Everyone's favorite tale of good versus evil takes a whole new look in this graphic novel. Join Luke, Han, Princess Leia, Vader, and the rest of the heroes and villains from a galaxy far, far away in this graphic novel collection that retells the original 3 Star Wars films, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. You'll experience the saga in a way you never have before. And it's this awesome graphic novel all in one, done in a very cartoon stylish way. It's nothing that I can tell that's been released before.
Right, it seems like all brand new.
All brand new. It's not any of the Marvel stuff reprinted. It's a neat collection.
I think in the very back you might find some of the credits for some of the creators on the book, if I'm not mistaken. I did page
That was
through
my
it
next
briefly.
question.
I paged through it briefly.
Let's see. Interesting.
Was this book done by a cast of thousands or what?
It seems like it. There's
Yeah.
a whole big page in the back with all kinds of names for editorial team, design team, the art team, portfolio, and it seems like studios of people, not just individual artists. But it's really a neat-looking book.
Put together shop style, in other words.
Yeah.
Yeah, did it
Smells
pass
good,
the-
smells good, too.
It passes the smell test.
passes the Sheen smell test.
Yeah, it looks nice. It'll be fun to look through.
Very good. Well, thank you for sending that to the studio.
Absolutely.
And now, what do you have there, Mr. Murdo?
Well, I have something sent our way from Montrose, California, by Tracy Morgan. I assume not that Tracy Morgan. The SNL alum and also star of 30 Rock.
I was just watching him on 30 Rock.
But
Brilliant show.
it is addressed specifically to me, and it's
That's why I didn't even open it. I let it go.
neatly packaged and
Normally, I'd be like, look, ooh, what is this? But
much
not-
less
it's
neatly
not for
now.
me.
Well, it's clearly something that's between a couple of pieces of cardboard to keep it
Wow.
flat for shipping. Yeah, swanky.
you need a knife. There's a
No,
pair of
thanks.
scissors up there in the peanuts can.
I assure you it shall not be necessary.
Okay.
Snoopy can.
Nope. I can handle a little bit of cardboard. And
Oh, there it is!
Oh, wow.
There it is!
Wow.
All right.
So spoken, so received. It is a copy of Superman and Volume 1, Annual, number 11, from 1985. Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, For the Man Who Has Everything.
excellent.
Beautiful.
Classic.
Black Mercy, right there on the front of Superman's chest on the cover. Yeah, we had mentioned a while ago that what was it, Dr. Eamon Clark?
Dr. Eamon
that,
Clark.
was wondering if I'd read this story, and I had to admit that I had never. Although I knew that I loved Alan Moore's Superman work based on the DC Comics Presents story he did with Swamp Thing, and of course for the man, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is my favorite non-crisis story in all of comics. But apparently Tracy Morgan heard our discussion on the show and has sent out a copy of it, and it's in great condition from the looks of it.
Excellent.
Survived the trip from the West Coast in immaculate condition. Doesn't appear to be a note inside from Tracy, but thank you very much, Tracy, for
Yes.
your generosity.
That's awesome.
This is going to be
Going to be read and discussed on the air by Mr. Murdo himself. I'm looking forward to that immensely.
Absolutely.
that is a promise.
And we should mention that a recent episode of Supergirl addressed this
Yes, it did.
concept, by
That was
the
a
way.
great episode.
Yeah, see, that's
It was.
that's where I kind of fell behind, and that's the episode I have to watch first when I start to catch up
Okay.
on Supergirl. I've yet to see the Supergirl Flash.
Oh,
That was just last night. That was awesome.
Okay.
I watched it too. It was fantastic.
All right, so briefly, we'll try not to spoil it too much. How freaking awesome was
Oh,
that?
my God. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, my God.
Fantastic.
There was, I won't say, but I have it written, there was a line that Cat Grant said when those
Yeah.
four were in office. I was laughing
Uh-huh.
so hard,
I
had
did
to
too.
pause the TV.
All
I was laughing for literally a minute straight.
Oh.
Oh, my God.
Thank
all
goodness
the-
we live in an age when pausing TV for laughter is a
Oh.
possibility.
All these neat little in-jokes, and that's one of them.
That's one of the things I regret about not just watching by myself. There's no one around to share this. That was just wonderful.
I got to watch it with both boys.
Oh,
it was
I'm so
fantastic.
envious.
Murd, I want to point out, I won't spoil it. All I'll say is there's a scene so tailored.
Oh,
to you.
yes!
All I'll say is whiteboard,
Yeah.
Barry
yeah.
Allen,
Yeah.
the multiverse.
Oh, my God.
It's,
Yes.
it's tremendous.
So the picture
Fantastic.
is
It
out.
was amazing. Oh,
That was a
and-
lot of fun. And boy, did they have great chemistry.
Man.
Talk about just an absolute fun team-up episode.
Yeah, I saw on Newsarama today that like 7.4 million viewers
God.
tuned in to watch that episode.
Nice.
Well, that show is so entertaining that my wife enjoys it along with us
Yeah.
every week.
That show,
Essentially.
I've been very pleased with that show.
Yep. Well-
It is very well done.
Well, Danny said a while ago that that show's not really aimed at solely at a hardcore geek audience. It's meant to be a crossover
Oh,
show
yeah.
for a CBS audience, and
Yeah.
it seems to be pleasing both those demographics perfectly well so far. Because I know of several non-geeky, non-comics affiliated types that nonetheless watch that show weekly and enjoy it. Some of my coworkers at the barn do actually.
Nice.
And as you record this, it actually, Supergirl has not as of yet been picked up for season 2 officially yet.
Really?
Oh, really? I thought I saw an article
thought
about
I'd
that.
read that too.
No, now you're going to, but I'm pretty sure that
No, I don't think it has.
several CBS shows have been picked up, but Supergirl is not one of them. It seems to be a foregone conclusion. I would think, but at this point, I don't believe it has been. Right now it's still not confirmed.
Huh.
Still not confirmed. Wow.
Hopefully, last night's episode will nudge them.
It should.
Studio executives in that direction.
God, I was counting up different worlds that exist in the DC
Oh,
universe
yeah.
now.
And it just harkened back to me to there's so many. I mean, of course, you've had the Flash was on Green Arrow and so forth, but remember when Green Hornet was on Batman?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You had the Bionic Woman on the Bionic Man show.
Yep.
Oh, it's just so fun.
Yep.
Totally.
And not only that, they addressed certain key things that should happen with a Flash and super Kryptonian in a show or a meeting
Oh, it's
anyway. So yeah,
Murd, you're gonna love it.
a lot of nods to us, yet still fun for everybody.
Oh, how can I say this without the name that Cat Grant wanted?
Oh yes,
yeah. Oh,
used twice before.
yes.
Yeah.
Just fun on so many levels.
Yeah, but her line was probably the best
Man,
in the whole episode.
I couldn't stop laughing for about a minute straight. I had to take a knee. I was laughing so
I
hard.
had a pretty good guffaw over that too.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Very meta.
Yeah. and I'm glad that they can do that because of bringing those two characters together from two different networks, that they were okay doing that.
There was even a
Together.
promo for The Flash, which I zipped through because, no pun intended, because I didn't want to see it, on the episode of Supergirl.
For
right?
CW's show, yeah, which was
man.
great.
Speaking of partnerships like that, Shane.
Yes.
Do you have?
I do have my list.
King of the segues. Do you have your top five? Because
So-
you missed the episode of top
I
five
did.
partnerships.
So
and
here-
we left the good ones out for you.
Now, how did you do it? Just whatever, like any other top five, whatever we want. not
Whatever it
team
means,
ups, partnerships.
Top five
Right.
partnerships.
Okay.
Again, not to be a dead horse, there are no rules in top five.
Which is true because some of mine probably are close. Number 5 for me is Sue and Ralph Dibny.
That was my number 5 as well.
Number 4 is Francine and Kachu from SIP.
I saw somebody post that on the
Nice.
forum.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh,
I
nice.
completely forgot. That is an excellent choice.
Number 3 is Batman and Robin.
Okay.
I'm glad one of us had that on there.
Number 2 is Starman and Shade.
That was,
And I
was on Chris's list, too.
I debated
It was.
about who to put Starman with because he had some good partners all throughout that.
And gee, who could your number 1 be?
Well, that's Booster Beetle.
of course.
But then some alternates I had were Gambit and Rogue, Captain America and Falcon, Canary and Arrow, Mr. Miracle and Barda, R2 and 3PO, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Nightwing and Barbara, Superman and Lois, let's see, Superman and Batman, The Birds of Prey, Harley and Joker, Harley and Ivy. So
Yep.
yeah,
A bunch of those were not mentioned by any of us.
that was fun thinking about. But yeah, right away, my God, even before I wrote this list, Booster Beetle.
We all knew it. I think we all just steered clear of the blue and
There's
the
no
gold.
way-
yeah.
For your sake.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Something TV-ish that I wanted to bring up,
Sure.
not spoilery, but something that interests me, and I'm glad they finally put it on Netflix, was the second season of Young Justice. I knew the
Oh,
first
wow.
season was on, and I started watching it, but I stopped at like episode 9 or 10 of the first season because without the second season, I could have cared less to continue. I love the show, and I would have watched it, but
Excellent show.
once I got to
Excellent.
the end of season 1, I wanted season 2. Well, just earlier this month, I guess for March, they put on season 2. So I went through at lunch because we were on overtime, so I only had a half hour for lunch, and I could get an episode, sometimes 2 in every lunch period. So I slammed through that whole thing, partially because around the internet and Facebook and all that, there's rumors of Netflix looking to revive that for a season 3.
Yeah.
So I did my part and watched every single episode in that span of time, which is such a great episode. I forgot some things that happened in there, but what an enjoyable experience to revisit that again. And gosh darn it, I hope they come with a season 3.
Well,
What I enjoyed about... I'm sorry, Pants, go ahead.
I was going to say what I love. I have a love-hate relationship with Netflix. When Daredevil first premiered, that's when I got the streaming. Signed
too.
up because I had a trial, and then I canceled it.
Oh,
Because I didn't want to get addicted and watch all kinds of shows.
I was hooked.
So I let it go. So when they brought Jessica Jones on, I re-upped, watched that, then canceled it again.
you're killing me.
So for Daredevil Season 2, signed up again,
Jesus.
but I kept it going. And Danny will appreciate it, because Danny and I had this discussion when we were at the CGS Wild Pig Retreat back in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a 4-episode revival, come back with you, of Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
I love that show. I hadn't watched it in forever, and I had the DVDs. I can't find them in my collection. So I'm now, after Daredevil, I've now watched 25 episodes of Gilmore Girls.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Oh my God, I love this show.
Now,
Best show
I'm
ever.
sorry, it's amazing. And what's neat about having it on Netflix, I'm going off on a wave of tangent, forgive me. When it was filmed in the the widescreen
Yeah.
16:9 form, but it was broadcast for the
Square TV.
the 4:3 TVs. And the DVDs, I think, are like that too.
Oh, really?
I think.
That's a shame.
Netflix is broadcasting it, and it's how it was recorded. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I mean, not that you see anything great in widescreen, but it's you see Stars Hollow and everything. Oh,
Now,
don't get
every
me
now and
started
then
that.
on Netflix, I would throw on a Doctor Who episode because they had them all up there
Right.
from the first 8 seasons and some older ones. All of that's gone.
Yeah.
But
It's
I
on
also,
Amazon Prime now.
which I also have, so I'll at least be able to watch some just every now and then whenever I feel like it on Amazon Prime. I started Star Trek Deep Space Nine on Amazon Prime because we had that first. Then got Netflix like you pants to watch Daredevil, and I've finished Deep Space Nine. Now, most of this happens at lunch on my lunch hour, or if I'm doing dishes or folding wash or something, I'll put an episode on my phone, and most times listen to it, sometimes sit there and watch it. I finished Deep Space Nine. I went through all of West Wing because I never watched all of that. I went through all of Heroes. I'm through most of Alias, and through that I was watching like Cheers. I'm up to like season 6 or 7 of that. I went through Wings until they took that off, so I watched the first 2 or 3 of that, and then went to the very last episode before that went. I've had a lot of fun in any spare moment I can watching some part of an episode for either something new or something old that I don't necessarily want to buy and have DVDs for, but I just want to see.
Mm-hmm.
We started watching Fuller House. The kids watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure the other week, which was a riot.
Oh, the Tim Burton one from the 80s?
Yeah. Oh my
Nice.
God, it was hilarious. They absolutely loved Large Marge.
Large Marge
So I've had a great time with Netflix. I have the streaming. I have it not HD, which doesn't look too bad coming across my computer screen or the TV when I do it through the video game systems or
It's
something.
like $2 more for the HD. I sprung for the HD.
I was trying to go as cheap as possible so Curly would allow me to keep it. But yeah, what a great resource to watch stuff.
I can't. I'm addicted to that. It's got to stop. But now I can't. I got to keep going.
Yeah.
Because Gilmore Girls is coming up. Next thing you know, they're going to have like Luke Cage is going to be coming up
Yep.
soon. And
I have to do Fringe and Twin Peaks yet.
Stop
Those
it.
are the two I want to
Well, I got Twin Peaks on
tackle next.
Blu-ray.
I've never seen either of those shows.
Oh.
I've seen
Shane,
parts
Shane.
of Twin Peaks, but not all of it. I've only watched maybe 2 episodes of Fringe, so those are 2 that I really have to tackle next.
Shane, once you begin the journey for a great cup of coffee and some wonderful cherry pie at the Double R Diner in Twin Peaks, we'll have a discussion.
Okay.
And I look forward to your reaction to watching me on television.
Oh, get out. Nice.
Well, it's uncanny. When you watch Kyle MacLachlan, you'll understand.
Okay.
So yes, I've been doing the boring Netflix and chill recently.
What I was going to say, Shane, is I watched the Young Justice show as well. That's an outstanding series.
yeah.
Because
Top notch.
It's so lovingly takes a certain version of the DC universe, and it brings in so many great characters.
Yeah.
There's great intrigue in that series. Great world building. I love how they use Black Manta in that series, for example.
yes.
It was really, really well done.
Yes, in all ways it was well done. Not only for an overarching story, but for the growth of Teen Titans type characters,
Yep.
and their progression to the second season, which was phenomenal.
Yes.
When you get to that very last episode and see what's supposed to happen next, and then there's nothing. Oh, God, did I cringe! What a great show.
I wanted to go back to Supergirl for just a second.
Okay.
And I hate seeing spoilers like this, but again, unless I throw my computer out the window, I'm going to see these things. There's an actress who's been announced as being cast on Supergirl. Who's
Yes.
okay all
for
right.
next season.
Yeah, if that
they were
happens.
trying to figure it out this season. It didn't work out.
Right. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well,
man.
and for past cast people, not only did you have Dean Cain and Helen Slater so far, what's her name from Smallville, who was Supergirl, was
Laura
on.
Vandervoort. Say that again.
Was it?
Vandervoort, I believe.
Thank
Vandervoort.
you.
That's right.
As Indigo, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just what a great way to bring in all kinds of past DC Universe TV show movie people.
Yep.
I hope they keep going with it.
All right. All right, so on to talk. Oh, I'm sorry, Murd. Go right ahead.
Were you about to segue to the DC Rebirth?
I was going to try to.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to just throw off your segue there, but there was
No worries.
Yeah, I wanted to reopen the CGS Mailbag.
Okay.
One more time here, and I apologize in advance if this is going to bring the show down a little bit. But
Okay.
It's kind of a follow-up to our discussion of, among other things, Power Man and Iron Fist #1,
Okay.
episode number 1596.
Okay.
We got a little bit of electronic messaging.
1997, actually.
Was it?
In 96 was Comic Book 97 was the off the road.
Okay, I apologize again. I'm no head for numbers.
Oh,
this
that's
one.
right. That's right.
So yeah, we actually heard from we received one piece of listener mail and one message from a creator in response to what we were saying about Power Man and Iron Fist #1 in
Yes,
that issue, and
yes.
specifically what I was saying. So
Yes, I saw this, and I was going to let you. So go ahead, take the floor, sir.
Yep, this is me. An expression of contrition on my part. It's sort of a bad news, good news situation. The listener email is from a listener named Jonathan Boyce. And the subject line of this email is racially charged tombstone discussion in episode number 1597. See, right there it is in black and white. You were right. It is 1597. And Mr. Boyce, respectfully throughout, but respectfully but pointedly, clues me in on the fact that as I was criticizing artist Sanford Green's rendition of Tombstone in that issue, I crossed a line a little bit as I was... I didn't really like the way Sanford had drawn Tombstone, and as I began to complain about that, I went a little bit overboard. And Mr. Boyce points out to me that describing an African-American character like Tombstone as drawn by an African-American artist like Sanford, using such phrases as big, ugly gorilla lips, is perhaps inadvisable.
Right.
Unwise, unkind, potentially racially offensive on more than one level. And he closes the letter by saying that he'll assume positive intent on my part, but he believes that our listenership deserves an apology. And Mr. Boyce, first of all, thank you for writing in to express your concerns, and thank you for assuming positive intent, giving me the benefit of the doubt there. It's more than a lot of people would do. And
Well, Murd, after 1,600 episodes, I think you deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris. But yeah, I want to reassure Mr. Boyce and anyone else who may have been taken aback by the things I said about the way Sanford drew Tombstone, that no racial offense was intended. I was not thinking in terms of race. Otherwise, I would have phrased my comments a little bit differently. To be honest, even before we received the email from Mr. Boyce, as soon as we were done recording that episode, I was a little worried that I'd been maybe a little hard on Sanford, especially since we knew in advance that he would be listening. So I think all I wanted to do was... The only problem I really had with the way he drew Tombstone was that I thought he looked a little bit too dumpy and comical and just didn't have the same air of menace about him that he'd seemed to the way other artists had drawn him in the past. So that was really the crux of the problem. I would not have gone so far as to stress the perceivedly simian qualities of the character if I'd thought about whom I might be hurting in so doing. So I do want to apologize to anyone listening who may have... taken offense at those remarks. I did not mean them in that light. Now, on the bright side of all of this, we did have another bit of correspondence from Sanford Green himself, because as we mentioned in episode 1597, he does listen to the show regularly. He's actually been a guest on the show a few years ago, and he got in touch with us as soon as he heard we were doing Power Man and Iron Fist #1 as an Off the Rex, and he got in touch with us again afterwards and said, and I quote, I just listened to the review last night, and I thought it was great. I even appreciated Murd's critique. To be honest, if he didn't have anything snarky to say, I'd worry that I wasn't doing my job.
Yes.
Thanks again for the support. So, Sanford, thank you very much for listening and for being a good sport. It's actually something of a relief to me to learn that you weren't too upset by me being so hard on you, and I'm sorry if my remarks may have crossed a line between simple snark and insult. But I'm glad that you took no offense, and we're actually kind of happy with what even I, had to say about PM and IF #1. And you can count on us, and particularly Chris, who is over the moon with what you and David Walker are doing on that series, to continue to support the book both verbally and monetarily in the future.
All right. Anything else before we move on to some discussion on DC Rebirth announcements?
Nope.
All right. Well, as we record this, it's actually a few days after the announcements. They happened on Saturday, March 26th at WonderCon. They had a big panel and discussion about what DC Rebirth is. They had a live stream. I watched it live. I think Murd watched it live.
I was watching too. It was on at like 12:30 Eastern time.
Right.
I watched it the next day on Sunday.
And I have in front of me just a lot of the titles and things that have come out about that. Let's see if we can have a discussion on that. First, I want to mention I have the actual solicit for DC Universe Rebirth #1, which
An 80-page giant.
an 80-page giant.
At $2.99.
It's $2.99.
Outstanding.
It comes out. It's on sale May 25th, which is, I believe, the last Wednesday of the month of May. So if I were to order through DCBS, it should get there by the weekend.
Right.
However, this is one book I'm probably going to go to the store on that Wednesday and buy because now it's written by Jeff Johns, art by Gary Frank, Yvonne Hayes, Ivan Rice, Ethan Van Sciver, Phil Jimenez, and others, with the cover by Gary Frank. It says, "It all begins here. Do not skip to the last page. Do not let a friend or message board ruin this comic for you. The future and past of the DC Universe starts here. Don't say we didn't warn you." And then here's a they said it. Quote, "Rebirth is about focusing in on the core of the character and their respective universe," says writer and DC Entertainment Chief Creative Officer Jeff Johns. Quote, "It brings back what has been lost, the legacy of the characters, the love and the hope of the DCU." $2.99. So I want to get this. I'm curious about it because there's a great image on the cover of all these heroes going towards the light and an
And a hand coming,
outreached
Sistine
hand.
Chapel style. They're reaching for the hand coming out of the light.
Exactly. And what could it be?
Whatever it is, it's supposed to be the biggest secret
Right.
in the
Exactly.
entire history of the DC universe / multiverse.
So that whole week, I'm just going to try to go offline and just ignore everything and just go to the comic store, go to Golden Eagle first thing that Wednesday. I'm usually off on Wednesdays, and get that book and devour it and then go from there. Initial thoughts on the whole concept?
Well, it's piqued my interest.
It's
It
piqued my
has
interest.
mine as well, because I've been out of DC pretty much for the last 2 years.
And I'm pretty darn close to that. I'm interested in some of the things from listening to then the subsequent panel. I'm interested in some of the titles and some of the creative teams.
But, yeah, I'll get to that then. Yeah.
I'm not going overboard to want or have a desire to get every single book, but if I was getting 5 or 6 before, I might get 7 or 8 now. Now, some of them are twice monthly shipping, which I'm not completely thrilled about, but again, I want to read Tom King writing Batman, so I'll go along with that for a while because that can't be anything but fantastic to me. I'm looking forward to that, and some of the other things that we'll get to in a minute. I am very interested in to see what comes out of this and to see what stories they tell with some of the books that I'm just interested in, let alone the rest of them.
So, Chris, as a retailer, what's your initial take on this?
Well, I'll speak as both a retailer and as a reader. As a retailer, we don't really carry new comics anymore except for subscribers. So,
That's correct.
From that perspective, I'm not particularly excited because it's not something we really do anymore. Maybe we'll get a few things. If like maybe we'll get the 80-page giant, for example, but even that's debatable. As a reader, the initial I just read a bunch of the stuff just as we were talking and some of the solicitations as well. Like Shane, I mean, Greg Rucka's return to Wonder Woman. I'm all over that. I mean, his run on Wonder Woman was tremendous when he did that back in the 2000s. Dan Abnett on Aquaman. There's creators I'm really looking. And you mentioned Tom King, who I feel just can do no wrong at this point. So I'm really looking forward to their takes on the characters. As far as the overall concept, I mean, honestly, I think the New 52 was so poorly executed overall, with some wonderful exceptions, that I'll be honest, I'm very cynical about any kind of relaunch that any company does, that either of the big two does at this point. But it's interesting when they talk about legacy and returning to acknowledging a past, because I think one of the main weaknesses of the New 52 is there really was no past. They basically just, and I thought in a very cavalier and disrespectful way, wiped out the entire history of the DC Universe for what? Short-term money? I can assure you, as the months passed, those books were not selling. So, you know, I'm pleased that Jeff Johns is the architect of it. I have a lot of faith in him as a writer and as a concept man. But I'm really going to reserve judgment until I read this stuff and see what it does. I mean, if it does something very innovative and dynamic, and compelling, I'm sure I'll be enjoying at least parts of it. But I've been a retailer for 17 years. I've been a reader since I could read. So when it comes to stuff like this, honestly, I'm a little jaded at this point. So I'll be. I'm not even going to say cautiously optimistic. I'm just going to say cautious, and leave it at that. So,
Danny, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not really. There's a couple books that I'm maybe interested in, but other than that, the only book I really read is Batgirl. And I really don't understand what this rebirth thing is anyway. I tried reading about it, and I don't really get what it's supposed to be. Like, are they merging the universes, or is it just New 52 but relaunched? Like, I don't really get that. And if it is, like, I mean, I hope it works out for them, but I have no cares either way, really, at this point. I mean, not to be all Debbie Downer, but I just... the New 52 fell flat for me, and I don't care about any of this anymore. Like, I can't even, like, want to care. I'll read a couple books, and I'll probably enjoy them because I like the writers, but at this point, I don't care about big events. I don't care about... They lost all the continuity. I mean, what's the point anymore?
I have to echo Danielle's sentiment. That's one of the issues I'm having with both universes, but especially DC, but also Marvel to some degree as well, is while I still revere the iconic characters, the concepts, which you see in a lot of the great multimedia now. A lot of the TV shows and movies are addressing some of the all-time great concepts that came out of these two universes. But the comics have become so convoluted, and there's so many relaunches. And like Danielle said, with a lot of the books, I love the characters, but I just don't care about the titles anymore because it doesn't mean anything. Because you know they're going to relaunch it again. Either they're going to do another volume of a series in another year or two, and it just... I find it all very cynical, and I find Dan DiDio especially such a rank propagandist that anything he says, I just take with a grain of salt. To me, he's just another corporate spin person. And, just be honest. New 52 sucks. It fell flat. You're probably not doing well with it, so you're going to relaunch again, and you're going to call it something else again. And there's some great creators on it, and I love creators like Greg Rucka and King and Abbott. I'm going to read stuff they write because I love those writers. That's really what I'm following. It's certain writers. It's not even the characters so much as who's writing. Pants, you mentioned that eventually Christopher Priest is going to write Deathstroke, right?
Yes.
So anything that guy writes, I'm going to read, regardless of whatever company he's working for. So I'm excited about some of the writers they have engaged and some of the concepts that I've read. I mean, like Ruck on Wonder Woman, I'm extremely excited about. I think that's going to be tremendous based on what he's done with that character in the past. But as far as the overarching stuff, I have to side with Danielle. And again, I don't mean to be a downer either. I just don't care. I just don't care anymore. Because you know what? They don't care. Because the way they've treated their properties in recent years, it's a business, and I understand that, and they're corporations. But they're not even pretending that it's anything but that at this point. And it's boring. You know, there are so many great indie comics out there. I mean, you think I'm going to get excited about DC relaunched Googleplex when I can go read Saga or Lazarus? Come on. That's where I am now as a reader. So.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm more excited about the movies and the DC TV shows.
I agree.
More than I am about the comics.
Well, you have that in common with Warner Brothers in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the DC TV shows, I love them, and I love the Marvel properties. But even like Marvel, the books that I read, I really enjoy. But at this point, I'm not reading anything that's like main continuity. I'm reading all the very, eccentric titles, as I like to call them. Something that's not mirrored in all this, crossovers and all this other stuff. Like, I still have the last issue of Secret Wars sitting someplace, and I don't even care to read it. I'm like, whatever. I'm sure I'll read it at some point. It's just, as someone who's read comics for so long, I feel like if you stopped reading an issue, one issue, you're lost completely. You can't catch up. Like, there's so many things going on. There's so many titles. And it's a small fortune. You can't keep up with any of it. It's not fun anymore. And then when you add in all the negative energy that goes on in social media, it makes it even worse. Like, I mean, just go through Twitter or Facebook right now about Batman versus Superman, the movie, and people arguing about either they loved it or hated it. It's insane. Like, and that happens with when you talk about Marvel and DC. It's like this weird pitting Marvel against DC where you can like one and not like the other. It's not a big deal. Who cares? Like what you like. But at this point, I don't even want to read half this stuff because I just feel like everyone is just so negative, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to deal with any of this. It doesn't make me happy. DC, I feel like I need to have an advanced degree to understand what's going on. And that's not good. Especially someone who has been reading for a long time. How is someone new supposed to get up with any of this? No one could come off this street and be like, I want to read one of these comics. They'd be so confused. And they're like trying to make it better, but it seems like they just keep making it worse.
Yep. Every new relaunch just adds another level of complexity,
Yep.
as has been observed before.
I was just add one quick thing. We've always, I think Peter was a big person who was saying this. Every jumping on point is also a jumping off point for people. So this we'll see how which way this goes here.
So do you think it'll be a jumping back on point for you then, Brian?
I'm going to jump in with some things. Now, if the past is any indicator, I'm sure DC Base will do some sort of a bundle.
Right.
I will probably keep my eyes on that to see what they offer, whether it's every title for the month, all the Rebirth titles or whatever at some crazy price. I have to see which books I'd be interested in just from the solicits, determine how much more I need to spend to get everything to see if it's worth it. So I'm going to look at very carefully. I think the actual solicits are going to be on. Some of them are online right now, but actual physically, I think middle of April, there should be a catalog coming out because I think most of these books start coming out in June and July.
Yeah.
So we'll start seeing them, maybe even the next previews. I don't know. When we should get the next previews as we record this tomorrow, I think. But so it's not going to probably be in there. So I'm going to take a look at some things. Do you want to start diving into some of the actual solicits and some of the titles and creative teams?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is I thought about the bundle thing, but unless it's an incredibly great, cheap price, I'm not looking to get a bundle in every one of them this time around. I'm looking to pick out the ones I'm interested in and go with that alone.
That's sort of where I'm going. I might pick and choose, but...
But if it's great, you know...
I was all in with Convergence when they tried this kind of...
Yeah.
Hey, look, here's some legacy off to this side, the smoke screen kind of thing last year. But this year, I think I'm going to do what you guys are doing and just cherry pick those series which seem most interesting to me. And then there are quite a few in this listing that I think have a lot of potential.
Okay. Well, let's start out with the Bat family that I started out with on the live stream. Tom King is on Batman with David Finch. I'm going to give that a try. You know, Tom King's a listener of ours, a consumer friend. I've got to talk to him in person. He's come up to our studio more than one occasion to be on
Hit
the
the
show.
Beltway and drove up from the D.C. area just to be here with us.
He is a great guy.
He's a huge supporter of podcasts in general. Knows many other podcasters. When I'm sitting with him at convention, and because I sit with him behind the booth and we chat, and then when the fans come and interact with him, he is all about talking to the fans and interacting with them. He is just amazing. I've witnessed it many times firsthand. He's a fan of comics. He loves the fans. So, and to have him on Batman, he must be over the moon.
Oh
for
my
this.
gosh, yeah. I hope so.
And I feel certain we'll see that come through in the book.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give that probably a shot, definitely.
Well, look at how great Grayson was. I mean, I can't imagine he put his whole heart and soul into that, and that was fantastic. I can't imagine anything less for Batman.
Well, Shane, when you also consider Tom's superlative work on The Vision, to me, he's one of the most dynamic writers in comics right now. So he could be writing a grocery list on toilet paper, and I'm going to give it a shot because you know, this is back to what I said before. At this point, for me as a reader, not speaking as a retailer, but as a reader, it's the writers that I'm following. And, you know, whatever it is they're writing about, that's what's going to get me excited. It's the writers who are involved.
Right. So anybody, feel free to jump in as I try to go through them somewhat quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll be here all night. Next up, Detective Comics with James Tynion IV and Eddie Barrows and Alvaro Martinez. Now, this had me intrigued because of the actual people on the team.
Right, because
Batman, Batwoman.
Yeah, they're starting up kind of a Bat boot camp.
Yes,
Yeah.
spoiler, Cassandra Cain and Clayface?
Clayface. Which is not all that surprising because Mark Andreyko actually used Clayface in a semi-heroic role as part of a team of operatives that Kate Kane had put together in the Batwoman series. Him, Ragman, the Demon. And so now he's going completely legit and apparently taking some lessons from the Batman himself. I'm excited about that, actually.
So, yeah, I'm going to give that
Yeah,
title
I'm curious
a shot.
about that.
Like I said, everybody, feel free to jump in. Next up, Tim Seeley, Javier Fernandez, and Marcus Toe will tackle Nightwing, returning Dick to the classic black and blue and introducing a new mentor for Dick Grayson called Raptor in an arc titled Better Than Batman.
I am interested
Bold
in that.
statement.
I always liked Nightwing since his first solo series came out. And I followed him through Grayson, and I'm glad that he's coming back as Nightwing in the blue and black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a pretty hearty reaction from the crowd
Yeah.
at the WinterCon panel when they announced the original colors were coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
And
Tim
I'm
Seeley.
I'm sorry, Murd. Go
Yeah,
ahead, I'm
Tim
sorry.
Seeley had been co-writing the Grayson series with Tom King. So
Yep.
you can see that as a friendly dig at Tom King, actually, since now he's leaving Grayson behind and writing Batman. So here's Tim Seeley sticking with Grayson and claiming he's better than Batman.
Well, to piggyback what Murd was saying, considering what a great job Tom and Tim have done on Grayson, I'm thrilled that one of them is maintaining that continuity by continuing with Dick's character arc.
Yeah.
So that's a book I'm definitely going to check out.
Next we've got Hope Larson making her superhero comics debut on Batgirl with Raphael Albuquerque on art, taking Barbara Gordon on a backpacking adventure through Asia. I'm not familiar with Hope Larson. Anybody?
No, I'm not either.
She's done a lot of indie comics. She's done I think she did 2 books that were like young adult books. One was called Chiggers that I read. It was good. And I forget the name of the other book.
Okay, so this means the exit of the Cameron Stewart, Brendan Fletcher, and Bab Starr creative team. So how do you feel about this news, Danny?
I'm kind of upset that they're leaving, but I'm hoping that the book is still good. Supposedly, I heard rumor that they're supposed to be maybe announcing a book at Image with that same team.
Huh.
But that was just like something I glanced over on social media, so that could be a complete lie. But if they are doing something, I'm excited. I love Batgirl, so I'll give it a shot. I'll give Nightwing a shot, but not too into the whole idea of her backpacking through Asia, but I'll try it. Why not?
All right. Next up, writers Julie and Shauna Benson from The 100 will reassemble the Birds of Prey for Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, starring Batgirl, Black Canary, and Huntress on the trail of someone pretending to be Oracle.
I'm excited about that. I was a huge Birds of Prey fan for the original series, and that was just a absolutely fantastic run. And I followed it all the way through Brightest Day, and I had a lot of fun reading it. Fell off with it when they brought Birds of Prey back on New 52, but this has me excited for the quote original Birds of Prey to get together again.
Mm-hmm.
How is Batgirl supposed to be on this book, but also backpacking through Asia?
Excellent question.
Magic.
We don't have to explain it. It's magic. I should mention the artist on the book is Claire Rowe.
It's Birds of Prey, so I'm excited. I mean, that was one of my favorite books back in the day. So I'm in, as long as it's done well.
I also still think that TV show should have gotten a second season. That was on its way to being good.
It did
Oh,
get
God, I
better.
remember that
It did
show.
get better.
Oh, yeah.
It picked up towards the end.
It sure did.
Yeah, and I'm just very pleased for our friend Julie. To
Listener of the show, another listener of the show.
Right.
Who I happen to meet
Listener
her.
and friend, yeah. So she and her sister are finally getting their first comic byline. She'd been teasing us. She had something in the works. Couldn't tell us what it was, but now the truth can be told.
All right. Lastly, for the Bat Books, Scott Snyder and John Romita Jr.
And a bunch of other guys.
For All-Star Batman, also featuring Sean Murphy, Jock, All-Star
Paul
Batman.
Pope, I think, was in there. It's
Yep,
supposed to-
Paul
Paul
Pope.
Pope.
Yep.
It's going to be, from what I've read, it's supposed to be like a different Bat villain per issue and a different artist to suit the feel of each Bat villain. It's going to be kind of like Batman and Two-Face on a Mad Max-style road trip outside the Gotham City limits, and they're being tracked and attacked by different members of a coalition of Batman rogues as they go. So it's something not too far off from what Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee did with the Hush storyline, which trotted out, cycled through all the different Bat villains, all the classic foes, and pitted Batman against them more or less one at a time. So that aspect of it appeals to me. The Mad Max Fury Road stuff, not as much.
I agree with that, Murd. I'm excited for all the different villains and seeing different artists do things, but I don't know about the Mad Maxy kind of side of it. But we'll see.
All right. Next, they went through the Superman Wonder Woman family of titles. Dan Jurgens returning to Action Comics as a writer, with Patrick Zurcher, Tyler Kirkham, and Steven Segovia on art. Jurgens' story features pre-Flashpoint Superman in the lead role, and Lex Luthor as a supporting character antagonist who is also claiming to be the Superman of Metropolis. Now, I'm reading a lot of these things from the various news sites, whether
Sure.
it's Newsarama, Come Up with Resources, IGN, what have you there. So I'm just pulling from a lot of sources here. I actually didn't catch that part about the pre-Flashpoint
No,
Superman.
I didn't either. I don't know
No,
that they said it in the thing. At least I missed it.
I did. I knew
Okay.
that Jurgens was keeping that version of Superman around. So there are links to the past, to coin a phrase.
So that means old Superman?
Yeah, pre-Flashpoint, like the John Byrne Man of Steel era, up through...
Like underwear on the outside Superman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not necessarily wearing that costume, but yeah, it's that version of the character from that iteration of continuity.
So how come that Superman can exist, but
Convergence.
I don't even.
Magic.
So
It
Convergence,
just
you
hurts my
say?
head.
Yeah,
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly.
Yeah, the Superman Lois
like
and Clark
Doctor Who.
series. That's actually been Jurgens and Lee Weeks, I think,
Right.
and it's been the pre-Flashpoint Superman living in the post-Flashpoint New 52 world and kind of doing what Earth 2 Superman was doing all those years between Crisis and Infinite
All right,
Crisis.
because we talked about this before. I have to get that trade when it comes out. Oh,
You should.
That sounds really
That's such
good.
a good title. I thought when that was solicited that was an ongoing, and to find out it was 8 issues, I was crushed.
Yeah.
Because that is an outstanding book.
Oh, I forgot to mention that, more or less, I guess, obviously, that almost all of the books are ending before the rebirth.
Yeah, with
Almost,
issue
yeah.
52.
Well, the ones that started originally, but
Yeah.
everything else is ending.
Yeah, just ending.
Well, pretty much ending.
the most part.
There may be some... Your miles may vary.
Some may
Justice
survive.
Justice League is not ending, correct?
No, I think that
No,
one's ending.
that is...
It is? Okay.
Well, which if it's the one that Jeff Johns has been on, that one is going to end.
all of it. I think all of it's ending.
All right. Next is Jean... Oh, forgive me. Jean Lun Yang, hope I have that pronounced correctly, will write New Superman with Victor Bogdanovic on art, featuring a 16-year-old from Shanghai getting the powers of Superman and learning to be a hero. Steve Orlando and Brian Ching will be on Supergirl, featuring her father, Zor-El, now the cyborg Superman, offering her a chance to leave Earth to return to Argo City. Whew, interesting.
Danielle just went cross-eyed on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wish you could see my reactions because I'm just like, what?
Yeah, she's doing the what?
I don't think Zor-El... This is going to be the most personality Zor-El has ever had.
The new Superman, that's actually kind of interesting. I like the idea of doing something in another country altogether, in another city, focusing on a character getting powers and being Superman powers. The way the solicit reads.
Yep,
I know Raph was really excited, which rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah, because
why not?
He's Asian American and he's a
Yeah.
huge Superman fan.
What a great way to diversify something and do something new.
Yeah, I would. I think I'll try that one out. That one sounds interesting. But the other thing that was so over my head with all those people.
Yeah. Yeah, Jean Wen Yang really sold the idea of this new Superman to me by talking up the setting of Shanghai, which he describes as like a modern-day city of tomorrow, like a real metropolis because it's so technologically advanced over there. So, yeah, that if not the character of, I think Kenji Kong is what his name is going to be, or something alliterative like that, something Kong. as in Clark Kent, So yeah, and we'll just see if the market's going to support it, though. I really liked the Batwing series, which is basically Batman in Africa.
Sure.
As written by Judd Winnick, which was part of the first wave of New 52 series, and I supported it as long as I could until they backpedaled from it and moved it back to Gotham City and made Lucius Fox's son the new Batwing. And I dropped it as soon as they dropped the African setting. So hopefully this Shanghai setting will prove a little more palatable to the readers, because I would like this series to succeed.
Like you, I like the idea of Shanghai being the new city of tomorrow. That's a neat concept to put behind that.
Yeah. Of course, the question at the tip of my lips is, will the new Superman encounter the old Great Ten?
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes, that's a good point,
Yeah.
Ward.
That'd be fun.
Excellent. I should also mention that many of these books have a rebirth title, then the ongoing. We mentioned some ship twice a month. But Action and Detective resume their original numbering.
Legacy.
Legacy wanted to throw that in. And, of course, I think we did mention everything is going to be $2.99.
I really wish they would do that with everything.
Very smart move on DC's part.
Yes.
Whatever else they may be doing wrong, that is one thing they're definitely doing right here, making it affordable.
Let's see. They've also announced Superman, written by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, with art by Gleason and Doug Mahnke. And this has me intrigued, the new Superwoman book, written by Phil Jimenez, with art by Phil Jimenez and Emmanuel Lupacchino.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm interested
That
in that
is
one.
very, because I Facebook friends with Phil Jimenez, and he's all over social media. He posts all the time, and just some amazing stuff about this. He's very pleased about that. Looking forward to that.
I wonder who Superwoman is going to be this time.
Gosh, I'm sorry. Was that mentioned
No,
somewhere?
no.
It was.
Was it? I thought it
Yeah.
was a big secret as to...
Oh, no. I mean, just the Superwoman title, not the
yeah.
identity of Superwoman. That's not been gotten into yet.
Okay. I thought it was. Forgive me.
I misunderstood.
Okay.
It was my fault.
And there'll also be a Trinity book starring Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, written and drawn by Francis Manapul, with additional art by Clay Mann. Wonder Woman, you mentioned about Greg Rucka. With Liam Sharp has been announced, and also Nicola Scott, sort of having alternating time, like
Past and present.
One set in the present, one is sort of a Wonder Woman year one / origin story.
Which is kind of interesting, too.
They'll be trading issues, basically. And again, Greg, like Chris mentioned, Greg Rucka back on Wonder Woman.
Yep.
I'm excited for that
Can't
title.
be a bad thing
Have
there.
you guys read Rucka's original run on Wonder Woman?
I read a good
Yes.
chunk of it.
Yes.
I haven't gotten to it yet.
Murd, it's outstanding.
Yes,
I mean,
it
he
is.
really addresses Wonder Woman's role among nations as like an ambassador for the Amazons, and he really goes. It's Ruckus. He goes into the political intrigue of that. It's an outstanding run. I highly recommend it.
Yep. Let's see. Justice League, the main Justice League title, written by Brian Hitch, with art by Tony Daniel and Fernando Passerin. Joshua Williamson announced as the writer on The Flash, with Carmen D. Oh my goodness, Gio Domenico and Neil. Googe on art, Googe on art, in a story that features a Speed Force storm granting multiple people speed powers, including a villain named Godspeed. Interesting.
So it's another sort of mentorship situation, like in Detective Comics.
Yes, what it sounds like. And again, like I said, guys, if anything,
But now, with the New 52, didn't they do something like that in the early part of that book, where multiple people got power and got stuck somewhere, and Flash had to bring them out of this little pocket universe? I'd have to go back and read that.
I don't remember.
Because that's the only thing that sparked in my head was like, well, didn't they just do this for the New 52 with multiple people getting speed powers or something? But I could be forgetting.
Not
that.
ringing a bell with me, but then I wasn't following the Flash's title very closely. I think it was Francis Manapul that was writing and drawing that.
I think so.
Going to be doing the
initially,
Trinity book.
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Robert Venditti remains on a Green Lantern title with Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, with art by Ethan Van Sciver and Rafa Sandoval. Sam Humphries joins DC Comics for Green Lanterns with, Robson Roca and Adrian Saif, which will feature new Green Lanterns Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz, who I don't know at all.
She was in the Jeff Johns' Justice League series.
Well, I know of Simon Baz. He was, I think, Green Lantern Zero, I think.
She actually acquired the power ring of power ring from
Right.
Earth 3 of the Crime Syndicate.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep, and
Okay.
now she used that as a good power ring.
Okay.
Much to the ring's dismay of trying to turn her.
Yep, Volthoom was always buzzing in her ear
Yeah.
to do bad things, but now she's going to go legit, and she's going to join the Green Lantern Corps.
It was an interesting character to read.
Oh, it says defending the Earth from Atrocitus and the Red Lantern.
And those two Green Lanterns are a part of the Justice League too now, in that new title.
A couple of Red Lanterns in the Justice League?
No, the Green Lantern.
Green
Oh, the
Lanterns.
Green
Yeah.
Lantern. Sorry.
Okay. Huh. John Semper, a veteran of animation, makes his comics debut on Cyborg with Will Conrad and Paul Pelletier on art, and a story that focuses on Victor Stone grappling with how much humanity he has remaining. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second and just, I don't know, I haven't seen anywhere. I'm assuming everything we're reading here is going to be an ongoing.
That's how I'm taking
not
it too.
Not a 6 issue or an 8 issue. I don't know. Have we seen the end? Does anybody enlighten me?
I thought everything was an
No idea.
ongoing that we were seeing.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything specifically stating that it's going to be ongoing, but that's definitely what we're being led to believe anyway. And I think it's a safe assumption.
Okay, not one of 6 or whatever. Because
Not that I've seen.
Was there any initially? No, I think everything from the New 52 was an ongoing initially. I mean, something
Right.
turned out to be
Yeah,
Yeah,
limited.
like Hawk, that was
short-lived,
like 8
but-
issues. I think it turned out to be. That was one of the shortest ones. But
It was also one of the poorest quality.
okay.
Those two facts are probably related.
Okay. Dan Abnett remains on Aquaman, co-writing with Brad Walker, with Walker sharing art duties with Jesus Marino and Phil Briones on Aquaman, as Aquaman seeks to establish Atlantis' place in the global community. Let's see. Abnett's also going to write Titans, which
May I
spins-
jump in for just a moment?
Yeah,
Vance?
please do.
I'm excited about Aquaman because I always like when they approach that character as a king and as the head of state. And Abnett, of course, is a fine writer. I'm really interested. I'm interested to see how they approach the character from that perspective. I loved one of the bright spots for me of the New 52 was Jeff Johns' take on Aquaman. I thought it was one of the strongest series when they did the whole New 52 relaunch. So I'm interested to see how they approach the character in this iteration. So I'm excited about that.
Abnett will also write Titan, which spins out of the current Titans Hunt series with Burt Booth on art.
Now, Shane, have you been reading Titans Hunt?
No, I have the first 3, maybe 4 issues, and I have not sat down to read it yet.
Because I've sort of gotten the impression that series ties in some way to pre-Flashpoint history.
That's what I thought too, and it's just on my pile. I have to get to that.
Well, it's Abnett, so whatever it's about, it's probably
yeah.
going to be a good story.
God, I love their runs on Legion stuff. Oof.
Yeah, so it looks like they've got Garth, as in Aqualad, is going to be there. Roy Harper, Donna Troy, Dick Grayson, yet another Dick Grayson series.
Really some of the old school guys.
And a female Titan in a green outfit with what looks like a death's head masks that I don't recognize.
I don't remember that picture.
Any thoughts as to who that might be?
Unless
Nope.
it's a Ms.
No.
Martian kind of character, something other than that, I wouldn't know anybody else that would fill that.
Yep. Only guess I had was Joker's daughter, and that's kind of wishful thinking on my part.
All right, Harley Quinn will continue to be written by Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti, with Chad Hardin and John Timms on art. Let's see. Rob Williams is writing Suicide Squad, and I believe Jim Lee mentioned Jim Lee's going to be working on Suicide Squad. Did I catch that correctly, Murd?
What, Jimmy Palmiotti?
Jim Lee working
Jim
on,
Lee?
on Suicide Squad.
I don't remember that, but that doesn't mean you didn't hear it.
I could have I could have sworn when I was half watching, half listening to the panel, and I could have sworn he said that he was going to be drawing the Suicide Squad. Let me see if I can pull that
He
up.
did make a
Jim Lee,
comment.
yeah, he's going to be on Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he did make
Yes.
a comment about keeping up with art.
Yes, exactly. So we've got that. The cast will include Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, Rick Flag, Katana, and Boomerang.
All of whom are in the movie, surprise, surprise.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
on a side note, I saw that they're also soliciting Suicide Squad, the Silver Age hardcover. The original 1960s missions of the Suicide Squad are collected at last. And emphasis on at last, including story from the Brave and the Bold, plus Star Spangled War stories. I didn't know they appeared in anything else other than the Brave and the Bold, those Brave and the Bold issues. because like I have all of them. I'm going to maybe try to sell some of them. So they got a hardcover here.
Yep, trading on the name recognition from the movie. And
Well-
I wonder how many people are going to be disappointed when they find that it's just a bunch of plainclothes government agents and not supervillains.
Right. I mean, I understand that. I want to read that.
Yeah,
I read the first issue 25 of the Brave and Bold. I did actually brought it on the air here, and I liked it a lot, and I want to read more about it. So I'm going to probably get that hardcover so I can get rid of my comics.
Yeah.
Make some money. It's all about me making money. Money, money, money. All right, moving on here. Again, please stop me before I go off the rails here. It's not already happened.
You have not yet.
Okay, and then they had like a lightning round there at the end from, let's say, so they had Green Arrow by Ben Percy, Otto Schmidt, and Juan Ferreira. Yes.
With the goatee.
Yes, with the goatee.
And that was a big sticking point that anytime he has a goatee, it's good.
Right, featuring which I wasn't aware of this, featuring the first meeting of Oliver Queen and Dinah Drake in the
Yeah.
New 52.
I thought that happened too for some reason, but I
did
guess
not know that. Well, there's so many things that we take for granted that we know happened pre-Flashpoint that may not have even happened post. I mean, is there even a Donna Troy yet in post-Flashpoint?
No Wally West?
In Titans Hunt.
Well, yeah, there is a Wally West. yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, cause I've been lax in my reading. So, I mean, because... Anyway, mention that. Red Hood and the Outlaws, Scott Lobdell on that, with Dr. Soy on art.
And that's got some different people in the cast as well.
Two new Outlaws in the form of Bizarro and Artemis.
Yeah, what Jeff Johns has described as a dark trinity. You know, not that the Trinity is kind of dark enough on its own these days, but it's more like a loose cannon anti-hero version of the Trinity.
Yep.
And it's Bizarro, and Lobdell is writing it, so it's probably going to be funny Bizarro, which is going to make me happy. So I will definitely try that.
Bizarro make you sad?
Me dislike when Bizarro written with humor.
I'm confused now.
That means he
we're
likes
talking
it.
Bizarro or talking regular talk?
No, he was talking Bizarre talk.
I use the objective pronouns.
I'm so confused.
So naturally.
Naturally. Moving on to Hellblazer by Simon Oliver and Moritat will be a team-up story
Wow.
with John Constantine and Swamp Thing joining forces to rescue Abby Arcane.
Somebody tell Deemer it's Moritate artwork.
Christopher Priest returned to comics on Deathstroke with art by Carlo, Pagulayan.
Come back to that one in a few minutes.
All right. Igor Vittoriano and Felipe Watanabe, and is described by Johns as a nuanced take on the character.
Something he's been lacking for a few years.
Dan Jurgens and Bernard Chang on Batman Beyond being relaunched with Terry McGinnis.
I'm excited about that. I've
back in
enjoyed
the lead role.
the current Batman Beyond series, but I'm excited for that
Okay,
one.
so
too.
let me know here. Well, what happened to Terry McGinnis? Who has been Batman
I
Beyond, if not him?
don't exactly know what happened to Terry McGinnis, but I know who has been Batman, and I'll tell you off there because I don't want to spoil it if people don't want to know.
Okay.
Maybe there's somebody that hasn't read the newer stuff yet. But I was happy with who was Batman Beyond in this new series.
Okay.
Because he was sorely missing to me in a lot of ways in the regular DC universe. But yeah, I'll tell you that when we're off.
All right, you ready, Shane?
I am.
Keith Giffen. No, for this. Keith Giffen returns to Blue Beetle for a new volume with Scott Collins, but this time it features both Jamie Reyes and Ted Cord, who is being described as Jamie's mentor, or is it Jaime?
Jaime.
I'm sorry, Jaime's mentor, despite not being a superhero as far as we've seen in the New 52.
I'm excited for that.
Unless if you read Justice League 3001.
Right. Which I love that book too.
Yeah. I think it may be a casualty of all of this, but
Well,
you can jump right
I'll
onto
take
Blue
it.
Beetle.
I'll take it to have Ted Cord and Jaime together doing something. The only thing better would be if Booster was there as well. I mean, I would have plots then.
I think you can count on his making a guest appearance.
I would hope so.
And hey, Scott Collins' artwork is also, also very nice.
Absolutely.
Teen Titans with art by John Boy Myers, written by Ben Percy. Damian Wayne decides to take over and lead a team.
And he's got a different costume. He's got a green mask, the yellow and green cape, I think. It looks more Tim Drake-ish than Damian Wayne-ish.
I guess he thinks it's appropriate for a team setting, and except as I think Brian was about to say, the team doesn't necessarily want him, and so it's kind of like Robin versus the Teen Titans as much as Robin with the Teen Titans. And note the membership is pretty much the same as you can expect to see on the Teen Titans Go cartoon, except since Cyborg is occupied with the Justice League, they brought in Wally West, like the New 52 Wally West as Kid Flash, to take his place.
Yeah. Okay, go back to Deathstroke now.
Okay, Deathstroke.
Go ahead,
Because
Chris.
Chris has returned.
Chris has returned. He
Sorry,
had to step away
the
for a
water
second.
closet called.
Oh, okay. Deathstroke, Christopher Priest. Chris.
Well, it's Christopher Priest writing I think one of the most dynamic villains in the DC universe, and I think it's a villain he's tailor-made to write. In terms of political intrigue, in terms of a character who's very complicated, who has many sort of sides to his persona. Obviously, not a black and white type of villain. And I'm really looking forward to how Priest approaches Deathstroke's place in this current iteration of the DC universe. And I'm sure, knowing Priest, there's going to be humor in some way, shape, or form, and there's probably going to be very intelligent geopolitical aspects to it as well. So, I'm of all the DC books, again, it's about the writing for me. This and Abnett on Aquaman and Rucka on Wonder Woman and King on Batman is what I'm most excited about.
I want to say Jeff Johns even said like we all know, what a great run Priest had on Black Panther, and now we have him to write Deathstroke. There's some comment like that. It was really a neat comment from him.
And stay tuned, listeners. We'll be discussing Black Panther in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, people are clamoring for spotlights. They want to know when the next one's going to be, Chris.
It's coming next. It's coming next month.
That's right.
We preach patience here.
Yes,
it is.
It is taking a tremendous amount of time to prepare an episode like that. Yes. So,
all the love and care that goes into it. Yeah. And it says here the last announcement was of the Super Sons and JLA, although no creative teams were revealed. Have we heard anything about that since then?
Just that it's, I think it's Damian
and
Jonathan Kent.
Yeah.
From the Lois and Clark, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that is the son of the pre-Flashpoint Superman.
Oh, I got to read that frickin' Lois and Clark book.
It's a sleeper.
I concur with Shane and Murd. I haven't finished it, but it's an excellent series.
Is there any kind of analog for when you Netflix and binge watch TV? Is there anything like that doing that with comics? Because I need to just
No, I wish I could figure that out because I binge watch. The best thing I did, and I know I put this out on Facebook and stuff, but I read The Martian, and I read that sucker so fast. It was the fastest I've gotten to read a book in years. Yeah, boy, I'll start a comic book and late at night, I'll just doze right off. So, yeah, I'd love to find that sweet spot of binge reading a bunch of books.
Well,
I haven't found
Shane,
it yet.
you have 2 trade paperbacks of Priest Black Panther. Right?
I know. I gotta. I'm 7 or 8 issues into the first one. I gotta start plowing through them one at a day at least.
Get going.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to your input when we do the spotlight.
Because that first one has 27 issues in it or something crazy. Yeah. It's a heavy book.
So that's the DC Rebirth. Titles more or less as we have them at this time. And again, some of them are interesting to me. Some maybe not so much. I'm definitely going to pick up at the comic shop that DC Rebirth and just sequester myself and see what this is all about.
I was thinking about doing that myself.
It harkens me back to that DC one-shot
Countdown to Infinite Crisis.
Thank you, Countdown to Infinite Crisis.
That was a good read.
With what happened to your friend, and that was just a great story. And that kicked off the whole villains,
the whole next few years,
Villains United,
OMAC Project,
Planet Heist War. You mentioned all that. Amendment 52. Oh, 52. So, yes. I mean, I'm not sure you can capture that in a bottle again, but I'm not going to poo-poo it, so I'm going to give it a shot.
I'd like to think they can because they did it with Crisis on Infinite Earths. They did it somewhat with all of what we're talking about here, even through Infinite Crisis. I have to hope that they can because they've done it.
I'm sorry, Shane.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to piggyback on that. Again, and we were referencing this when Daniel and I were talking about our feelings on the state of things in the beginning. So many of these characters, again, their foundations are so strong that if you get the right creative approach and the right creative team and the appropriate writer, you're going to get great comics. And I think I want to clarify. I didn't mean to sound so negative before about reading new comics. It's the concepts that matter and the writers that matter and who's approaching these characters and how they're approaching. I mean, and I'm sure Bill would say the same thing if you're with us. When people come and ask for recommendations, and we go to our selection of trade paperbacks, I have in my head when it comes to a certain character, there's certain stories that I think just kind of make the template of what makes a certain character great. And I always look forward to new runs that you can sort of add to that template for that character. I mean, when I think of Spider-Man or the Avengers or Batman or Superman, there are certain stories that it doesn't matter however much the companies screw things up with the new stuff, what makes those characters great are there in those arcs. And like I mentioned, Greg Rucka on Wonder Woman. Anybody asks me, what's a good Wonder Woman story? that's one of the runs that I'm going to refer to them to. And so I hope we see some new great foundational arcs like that in some of this new material.
As do I.
So that's what's going to be happening this late spring, early summer at DC.
And into the fall. Some of the solicits go into September, it seems.
All right. Anything else on the Rebirth?
No. Nope. Oh, well, yes. I enjoyed that stream, even though I watched it later than what it was live. That was a neat thing to see and watch. Me, who can't get to conventions nearly like I used to, and everybody in this room knows that. That was a lot of fun to be part of that and watch it, because I stayed away from Saturday through when I could sit down and watch it. I stayed away from reading articles or people's comments about it and just watched it for what it was worth, and I had a great time watching it. So I hope they do more of that in the future as time moves on.
Yeah, there were, watching in real time as it was happening, there were over 10,000 people, like all over the world.
That's great.
But I did have to kind of keep my eyes on the images coming in from L.A. and ignore the stream of comments along the one side, because to touch back on what Danny said about the cesspool of negativity that one can find on social media, it wasn't all negative, but still, about a third of the comments weren't even in English, but a lot of the ones that I did read were a little disheartening, so I just decided to just focus on the positive and the people on stage and the news coming out, and just wave to Julie and Tom King down there on stage.
We have to remember, Murd, that when people are safe within the confines of their basements or bedrooms on social media and they're not actually looking anybody in the eye, it's very easy to be negative.
Right, just vent in an anonymous, consequence-free environment.
You take it with a grain of salt.
Oh my! It must be an anniversary episode.
We got the harp.
There we go. That, as the music no doubt lets you know, it's time once again for Muddle the Murd. Murd, it's been a while. What is Muddle the Murd?
It sure has. Yes. So for those of you who may have
just tuned in,
picked up on our podcast sometime within the last year, since it's been almost that long since we've done one of these.
Has it been that long?
It's not quite a year, but close.
Okay, go ahead.
So Muddle the Murd is our trivia segment, and it consists of me, the Murd, sitting here and allowing the man in the big chair over there, Mr. Brian Pants Chrisman, to lob 3 trivia questions at me, submitted by you, the listeners. And the trivia questions break down as follows. It must be 1 question about Marvel Comics, 1 about DC, and 1 about some third publisher. And they must also break down in terms of chronology, in that 1 of them must be about comics published before the year 1970, 1 about comics published between 1970 and 2000, inclusive, and 1 about comics published after 2000. So if any listener submits 3 questions that fit those criteria, and I fail to answer all 3 of them, that listener will have won a prize, which I will then mail to them at my own expense.
Yes. And if you want to submit a Muddle the Murd question, of course, with the answers, you send them to the comicgeekspeak@gmail.com email address with the topic heading Muddle the Murd. Mm-hmm. And right now, in honor of the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice movie, we're going to give away both a Batman and Superman sketch individually of each character by Craig Rousseau, donated by an anonymous listener several moons ago.
Wow,
so neat. Right now, these are up for the prizes.
Yeah, they kind of, just the body language is kind of is reminiscent of the way they look in the movie, actually.
Yeah. So this Muddle the Murd was sent to us back in May of 2015, May 30th.
Darn near a year ago.
By Phil Aiken. Goes by writer Phil Zay on the forums. Is he still on the forums, Murd? Do we know?
I don't think he's been around lately, but I do remember that username.
Okay. So he goes, I've been listening to the show for a while, and you've been asking for Muddle the Murds, so I'm here to give truth to the old adage, ask, and it shall be given you. They're all about names. Question 1, DC pre-1970. In the Batman Sunday newspaper strip,
oh my goodness,
in 1944, strips 54 to 61, at the end of an adventure, the antagonist gives Batman and Robin a bill. This man was, in fact, hired by a civilian to create a mystery so he and a young relative could play at being Batman and Robin. But the real dynamic duo stumbled upon the mystery. the contractor took on the name of a nursery rhyme character. Which one?
Well, I'm just... This is, of course, a stab in the dark here.
No kidding.
I have a collection of Batman dailies at home someplace, but I don't think I got more than like 25% of the way through it. And even if I had read this strip, I doubt I'd remember this particular detail. But just grasping at straws here, I'll say Humpty Dumpty.
The Crooked Man.
Okay, there was a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked penny by a crooked stile, or something like that. Or sixpence, crooked sixpence.
Fantastic.
You never cease to amaze me with your knowledge. One day, we're going to cut you open and look inside that brain of yours.
And save it.
Do me a favor and wait until after I'm dead, okay?
Oh.
God, that was dark pants.
All right. Well, no, I want to, his knowledge is
I'll
escape.
donate my brain to curiosity. Hold on a minute now.
I'm in awe of your knowledge, sir.
So when we establish the CGS Museum and library, decades from now, we'll have Murd's brain on display in a case.
Or at least his,
Preserved in formaldehyde.
at least his head in a Futurama kind of way.
Are you ready for question 2, sir?
Just a second. I'm looking up that nursery rhyme
Oh, God.
just to see if I can find the actual words to it, because I'm pretty sure I was off by a verse or two. There was a crooked man. He lived in a crooked house. There was a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked stile. I was right so far. He bought a crooked cat, which caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. Makes sense for...
Question 2, independent 1970 to 2000. And Michael Allred's Madman, Frank Madman Einstein wears a costume in homage to his favorite superhero. The reason is twofold: to hide his scarred body and to give himself confidence. What is the name of Frank's favorite superhero?
I believe he went by the name of Mr. Excitement.
You are correct, sir.
Thank you, Big Jim Miller, for giving me a couple of trades of old Allred Madman comics several years ago.
All right. Question 3. This question might even be thrown out had you not already gotten one right, but we'll read it anyway.
Okay.
Marvel in the 2000s. One of the new titles at the start of the Heroic Age, following Siege, was Avengers Academy. Ads for Heroic Age titles announced Avengers rosters featuring a character and a quote from them. In these ads, the character Metal, M-E-T-T-L-E, was known by a different name, which was changed to prevent confusion with a character from at another company. What name did Metal have in these ads?
Wow.
Yeah, see, that's why it's kind of...
Well, I think I would have admitted that question. I mean, were you going to find against it because it wasn't about the content of the comic itself?
Yeah, it's more of like a house ad question than an actual comic question.
Well, I'm inclined to think of that sort of thing as in bounds, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, I'm interested in the extra
Got to
textual.
plus some of my casing the cop questions for you then.
I think that's also legitimate, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, so start putting together your muddle. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad I got Mr. Excitement because I'm not going to come up with this one. All right, so he had a secret identity that sounded like the name of a character from another company.
In these ads, the character was known by a different name, which was changed to prevent confusion with a character at another company.
Okay.
What name did he use in those ads?
I'm going to say Cliff Steele.
Fortress.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't his. It was his working name. All right. So, so Fortress of Solitude. Is that what they're thinking?
I don't have any idea. Thank God you
Maybe-
weren't not muddled. I don't want to have to go to the judges on this
Might
one.
have been
God,
an
you
early
weren't
image
not
character.
muddled.
No, I would have
can't learn to
happily
I can
given
learn
Phil
to
credit
speak.
for
I'm
that.
still going to school.
All right. So thank you, Ryder Phil Z, for your attempted muddle there. And sorry it's taken us this long to get around to it.
Yeah, so send in those Muddle the Murd to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com.
That's right. The trivia works are open once again. I, for one, am excited.
Magnificent.
All right, what do we want to talk about next? Well, not everybody has seen Daredevil Season 2, so let's do a brief discussion. Have you seen any of it at all?
First episode.
Okay.
I haven't finished season 1 yet.
All right, well, let's just talk about it very briefly. Possible spoilers. Hopefully no spoilers. As I said before, I could watch Karen Page, Deborah Ann Woll, read a phone book. Good Lord, she's gorgeous to look at. But she is tremendous as Karen Page. There is a scene where just something happens, and like on a dime, she just starts breaking down and sobbing.
It's tremendous. It's tremendous.
Oh, that's just amazing scene. So heartfelt there.
In the first episode, she's pretty strong-willed to keep somebody in a hospital bed who's trying to leave, and she's trying to protect them. And
Yep.
she was pretty standoffish, like don't mess with me kind of way. That was pretty impressive.
If I make one general comment that doesn't give anything away, because I've watched 1 through 9 so far of the second season. If you're a fan of, I'm speaking now to generally the audience, if you're a fan of the Frank Miller Daredevil, you really have to watch this season, because it is deeply, now if you're not a big Miller fan, it may turn you off a little bit, but it's deeply rooted in, I think even more than the first season, in Miller's take on the character. When I say the take, I mean things Miller specifically did throughout his run in the late 70s and early 80s on Daredevil. And they're really heavily mining that period of the character's history. And one other thing I wanted to point out, and I want to hear Danielle's take on this, I'm really enjoying, and again, no spoilers, they're really emphasizing in this season that Matt Murdock is not always a likable person, and is an obsessive person, and is in some ways a dangerous person to be around. And I'm glad they're doing that, because that goes right to the core of the character, and that's been emphasized many times in many different ways to varying degrees by creators in the comic, and I'm very impressed with how they're not shying away from that in this season. And just my final comment, and then I want to hear Danielle's take. The actor playing the Punisher,
John Berthel,
is absolutely tremendous.
Oh my God!
I
Like Shane on Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. We've seen other versions of the Punisher before in multimedia. Just forget them all. This is the Punisher. Frightening, intimidating, and tragic. I mean, it is. What a performance by that actor! I can't praise it enough. So, and by the way, how awesome is Foggy in this season?
Yes.
Holy mackerel!
Tremendous.
God.
Oh my God! Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh.
Boy, is he earning his pay. Holy mackerel!
Yep.
I mean, I really applaud the writers and really just going for and same thing about Karen, like you said before, Pants. They're really not afraid to really dig deep into these characters and their psyches. And if you're a fan of the Daredevil comic, you know these characters, and to see the way they're unafraid to approach their edginess and their dark sides among themselves and in their relationships is so well done. So, and my last comment, I'm sorry, Daniel, I keep thinking of things. While I appreciate the dramatic impact of it in the first season, Ben Urich is deeply missed in the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deeply missed. And as much as I love the first season, I think that was a mistake to kill him. So, anyway, that's my sort of general take without giving anything away. What do you think, Dana, about what I said about Murdoch? Because I know you had some thoughts on that.
Well, first off, I think I'm in another camp. I enjoyed the second season. I did not like it as much as the first season.
Ah.
I feel like I need to rewatch it, but I found myself bored with it at times. I wasn't that compelled by The Punisher.
Okay.
But I think, as we were, Bill and I were discussing it, we realized I've never actually read a Punisher comic.
Okay, that's a factor then.
Ever.
That's definitely a factor, yeah.
And he does, the guy was really good, but it didn't do anything for me. And weirdly, and I hate to say this, Karen's character did nothing for me. And I should be all over her. I should be in love with the fact that she's like this strong female character who doesn't, who's not there to support a guy. She is her own person. Mm-hmm. But there was something about her character that drove me insane. I was
drove me
talking
somewhere
to
else. It wasn't insane, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there was a friend of ours said something along the lines of she's very naive and bullheaded, and it gets her in situations that she somehow lucks getting out of or gets someone killed, which I can kind of see. I don't know. I feel like I need to rewatch it. But going back to first season, yeah, killing Ben Urich was the stupidest thing to do.
I agree with
I
that. Yeah.
was so angry about that. That is the one thing I hated about that. But other than that, it was a good season. I enjoyed it. But, like, we binged it on Saturday night and Sunday night. I was so exhausted on Sunday, and we still had 4 episodes to go, and I went, have fun. I'm just going to watch it during the week. I wasn't engaged enough to be like, I need to stay up and watch this. I was like, I'd rather go to bed, and I'll catch it later.
Well, I haven't finished. I still have 4 to go. But what I will say is, again, if you're a fan of the early '80s Daredevil, and this may be a turnoff to some viewers, that era of Daredevil goes deeply into the mysticism of Daredevil, and his roots in that mysticism. And I won't say more than that. And people know Daredevil should already know what I'm talking about. And they really go heavily into that in this season. Mm-hmm. So, you have if that part of the character really was only explored a little bit in the first season. I mean, there were strong indicators of where they were going to go with it. And they really go into it heavily. It's what I've seen so far in this season. And I love all that stuff, but some people may be turned off by it because that's a very different sort of part of Daredevil's world, essentially, than people may be accustomed to.
I think that's the stuff I found the best.
Oh, great.
I think it was the Punisher stuff I enjoyed the Elektra stuff. I can't really go into detail. Yeah. There was this one article that I read that really hit all the points that I felt were weak points of the series. But like I said, I feel like I need to go back and rewatch it and maybe go back with a different mindset, and I might enjoy it more. But I think it lacked in some ways. I know we haven't talked about Jessica Jones, which, was amazing, but I do feel as if there were lull points. And I think I wanted more Foggy. I don't think I got enough Foggy in the second season. And going back to Matt Murdock is a douchebag. When you read the comic, it doesn't come through until you actually see it on the screen and realize what a raging asshole he can be. I was just like, I hate you, Matt Murdock. I don't even, just go away.
Well,
he's very unlikable.
Well, I commend the show for doing that, because if you're familiar with the history of Daredevil the comic, as I know you are certainly to some great degree, while his zeal for his mission to protect Hell's Kitchen, the city, is always there, oftentimes, because the mission comes first, he's often very cavalier in how he treats the people in sort of intimate aspects of his life. And a lot of people become casualties in different ways as a consequence of that, and they're not shying away from that at all. And they shouldn't. And I commend them for doing that. I mean, he's a complicated figure. I mean, he's not, the shining, heroic knight all the time. So I'm really digging that. And I can't wait to watch the final 4 episodes. So this is something we can discuss in great detail when everybody has watched it.
Just a couple quick things. There was another gotta see it extended scene, a fight in a stairwell.
I've heard episode 4 or something like that.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That was a good scene.
Brilliant. I can't wait to get to that.
And now here's something maybe we can discuss about a little bit. I'm not sure what it was, but I just didn't feel Elektra did it for me. I didn't feel that her relationship with Matt Murdock and Daredevil felt off to me, and I can't put my finger on it. Again, maybe another viewing will help me out, but that just seemed a little off to me. I didn't necessarily buy the actress as Elektra.
That was the only thing that I was really digging.
Huh.
I thought that was the strongest. I do think one of the problems about the Elektra character is that she's supposed to be this master assassin. Mm-hmm. They keep talking about how she's a master assassin. God, I hope I didn't spoil anything. But when you watch her in fight scenes, she gets beat up a lot compared to Murdock, and that really bothered me a lot.
Daniel's raised a very good point, and I really like the actress they cast as Elektra. I think she looks the part very well, but it's a different take on Elektra.
Okay.
And if you're familiar with, have you read the Elektra stories, Pants, in the comic?
Many of them, not all of them.
Okay, so I really dig the actress they're using and how they're applying, the character, but it's a different interpretation of Elektra. The darkness is clearly there. The fact that she's a killer is still... I mean, there's a great scene in Matt's apartment, I won't say any more, involving a knife, and that is... Whoa, boy! But she... You're right, Danielle. I mean, in the comic, Elektra is Daredevil's equal in battle.
Yep.
If not his superior in certain cases. And... I mean, I haven't finished it yet, but she's clearly very formidable in the show, but it's not taken to that degree. Like, when you read the comic, I mean, Elektra is killing people left and right, and she's clearly a match for Daredevil, like his equal, essentially, for the most part. And here you don't really say that didn't bother me, but it is definitely a different sort of interpretation of her combat abilities, essentially. Plus, the woman who's playing her, although I think she physically looks ideal for the part, she's a very diminutive woman. So, and when you think of Elektra, you kind of think of maybe not bigger, but someone who's just more physically, not like butch per se, but just more kind of a bit more imposing. And she doesn't have that, but I think she definitely has that darkness that is so intrinsic to that character. So.
She does, but I think they do, at some point, mention that she's supposed... I feel like I don't think I'll spoil anything, but yeah, I'm not going to say it. We'll discuss it more.
Okay.
Very well.
Fair enough. All right. Do we want to move on next to the Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice movie? Shane, you have a point there.
The only thing I'll say is I have 2 episodes of Jessica Jones to go, and the last few episodes have blown me away.
Shane,
oh my God!
I have one left. I still haven't watched the finale.
Oh my goodness! How could you have not?
How could you not watch the finale yet?
But well, my schedule.
I'm right there with you,
way.
Chris. I know exactly what you're going through.
Don't feel bad, Chris. I haven't watched the series premiere yet.
Murd, why should I feel bad? It's a freaking television show. But anyway,
good point. Put it in perspective.
Shane, that episode with the restaurant, the people with the nooses.
Yep.
I mean, that was one of the most disturbing hours of television I've ever seen, and I mean that in the best possible way.
There's a lot that happens in that
I think
episode.
I texted you, I said it was just brutal and unforgiving, and tremendous, absolutely tremendous.
Absolutely.
Woo.
All right,
We'll
Batman,
talk more
Superman.
about that show later. Too.
Batman, Superman, yes. I have not a lot to say, so I'm just going to sit back here and listen.
Okay. Well, who does have anything to say?
I didn't see it, so
Okay.
I have nothing to say.
Did you see it,
If you don't
Mark?
I saw it last night.
Okay.
Okay, Shane, you saw it, right?
I saw it Saturday.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll start it off because I have to leave in about
Go ahead.
20 minutes or so.
All right, pour it out, Chris.
Please, everybody, jump in. So, although I don't share Pants' zeal for avoiding trailers, I do like to go into any movie always giving it a chance, regardless of what I've heard or what you see in trailers or get from social media. I was like, all right, there's a lot of things about this movie that look concerning, but I want to give it every opportunity. I like Man of Steel despite the interminable fight at the end. So while I was very dubious about the fact that they clearly were stuffing a lot of characters and concepts into this movie, which screamed of, just naked corporatism, how can we catch up to Marvel and do our whole Justice League thing, I was still looking forward to seeing it and, seeing how they would navigate whatever corporate had demanded of them. Because there's clearly that element in this film. I think we can all agree when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching the film. I brought my younger son Jun with me, so we're watching this movie. And here's what I liked about it. And my wife was shocked because she can't stand Ben Affleck. His Batman, I thought, was the high point of the entire film.
I'll agree with that.
I believed him as an older Batman. I believed him as an older Bruce Wayne. I enjoyed his dynamic with Jeremy Irons is a tremendous actor. Mm-hmm. And I wish they'd used him more. And that's a line I'm going to use a lot in this review. In the film, I loved the Batman costume because they established that it is armor, but it also looks like really Batman's. When you think of Batman in the comic, I envision a costume like that. Essentially, I found him physically intimidating. They didn't even need the gratuitous scene of him working out and dragging weights behind and all that. You know, just the way he filled out that sort of armored costume. I mean, I found intimidating, frightening. And granted, they were having Batman kill people repeatedly throughout the film, and Jim kept saying, "I thought Batman doesn't kill people." And I said, well, this is a much older Batman, Jun, so, you know, he's clearly more jaded and so forth. And I was kind of back and forth on that. But I left the movie going, you know, I really wish they would just make a Ben Affleck film with him being Batman.
I agree with that, too.
And I'd be very interested in that. Now, that's what I take from the movie in a positive sense. Here's where the movie completely lost me and why I consider it, you know, very mediocre. Okay, first of all, why even have Superman in the film? He barely spoke. I didn't recognize him as Superman. I thought he was so gratuitously mishandled as a character that I was actually aghast at how I thought Henry Cavill did a wonderful job in Man of Steel, developing this himself as Superman, as that character. I really enjoyed his take on Superman. And I just thought they just basically pissed all that away in the way he was used in this film. He barely spoke in the whole movie. I just thought it was horribly executed. Yes, of course, they're setting up the idea that people are concerned that Superman is a godlike alien being and he's a threat to humanity, and Batman feels that he has to be confronted because of that, because of certain things that happen in the story and so forth. But it was so rushed, and you kind of fear this would be the case going in, so overstuffed with different characters and cameos that I just didn't believe or feel the gravity of that dynamic and that confrontation. And, I mean, I think Zack Snyder is not a particularly great film director. I think he directs great scenes that they then kind of link together into a movie. But if I have to see one more melodramatic close-up of, like, a water faucet running or a tombstone or melodramatic, like, you know, biblical music as a hero is standing on a crane dramatically or something like that, dude, just do characters. Tell a good story. Give us characters. Develop those characters, which you did to some degree in Man of Steel. Heaven forbid you have a few quiet moments in the movie, and it's going to be more engaging. But, my God, I mean, they're rushing from one thing to the next. Suddenly the Flash is appearing in a dream sequence from the future. Suddenly it looks like we're jumping into a version of Superman Red Sun and another dream. And I'm like, okay, unless you're a DC reader, you have no clue what's going on in these scenes in this film. This movie felt like a million different hands were involved in it. And whenever that happens, we've all seen comic movies like this so many times before, it never works. And lo and behold, for me, that was the case again. And when did Lex Luthor become like a mild Joker? I don't know what the hell was going on with that. And again, I think they had a lot of great actors in this film. Lawrence Fishburne, fantastic as Perry White. Amy Adams, wonderful as Lois Lane. But again, what did Marvel do right and DC do wrong? Marvel took 4 years to build up a universe and to give all the Avengers showcase films so we got to know all those characters and they could establish their origins and their characters and their relationships. This was like boom, 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 boom. All this stuff is being thrown at you. And I was like, oh, that was a cool moment, but then there's this happening. And, oh, there's another cool moment, but then they're doing this. And, you know, oh, wow, there's Aquaman for 30 seconds, kind of growling at the camera. There's Cyborg in the laboratory for 30 seconds. I guess that's the Flash. And, I left the movie exhausted. And just, wow.
Okay.
But most of all, and I'm sorry, Shin, then I'll turn over to you. I was so deeply disappointed in how they handled Superman in this film. I did not recognize the character. It was a disservice to Henry Cavill, who I think is a good actor and who did a fine job in Man of Steel. How they got Superman to be in confrontation with Batman, and I thought that was just felt hokey and forced.
Nonsensical.
Wow. You know, I wanted another Superman film. I wanted a second Superman movie, further developing Superman. maybe have one other character in there, for example. I mean, yeah, Wonder Woman looked great, but she was just there to participate in the fight, and that was basically it. You know, I didn't think it was the worst. I mean, it wasn't Fantastic Four or anything like that. But when you have characters this great and with this much history behind them and such a great narrative foundation, and you muck it up like this, I mean, you know, this is what you're going to get. I mean, it was cool seeing Ben Affleck recite some lines from Dark Knight Returns, for example. You know, and you know, Snyder clearly has read the books and all of that. But what a hodgepodge. And just and this is just a personal preference. His directorial style just grates on me after a while. I think it works in certain scenes and certain circumstances, but his movies are just they just feel so heavy when you watch them. And like even when they have moments of humor, it just doesn't even feel right because they just feel so overwhelming when you're watching it. Like I don't need to see like the close up of like the field Bruce Wayne's walking to as he goes to the family crypt, and you know, close ups of it's just not my style. I think the film did a great disservice to the DC universe, to Superman especially. But I will say I was very impressed with Ben Affleck's take on Batman, and I would love to see him reprise that role. So, all right, that's my soapbox.
Okay, real quick, I've been reading comics as we all have for years and years and years. Of course, I knew Bruce Wayne's mother was named Martha. Mm-hmm. I knew Superman's adopted mother was named Martha. Never put the two and two of them together until I saw the film. Never occurred to me they had the same mother's first name. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't put two and two together. So that was one thing I said, oh, well, okay, I never realized that. That's how dumb I am, I guess.
That's funny.
But that's
Rabbit out of a hat for you there. Suddenly it's an important plot point.
Anyway, that's about all I got to say about this. So.
Now, I'm not quite as harsh as that, and I don't disagree with a lot of what you said, Chris, because I had such low expectations for this that I really thought Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons would be the high point of the movie, and they were. Like you,
I agree. Yeah.
I enjoyed every interaction they had, every scene that they were on. Do I think Batman could have been written a little bit better? Sure, but I loved what they did with him anyway, just the same. Jeremy Irons was a great Alfred, not only because you didn't see him just be the butler that we do love and see a lot. You saw him doing everything in the Batcave, working on the car, the suit, the gadgets, talking to him, advising, consoling, everything, patching him up. It was all, to me, great from an Alfred and Batman perspective. Here's some of the things I wrote down. The first quarter to a third of the movie is a bit of a mess. To me, it screams of what should have been a Superman sequel and turning it forcefully into a Justice League prequel. Now, I appreciate the fact that Warner Brothers also tried to take a different stance since they are so far behind, and I truly think they are, compared to the Marvel movies, that instead of giving everybody their own movie like Marvel did, they tried to go about it a different way so that nobody could say, oh, you just copied what Marvel did and give everybody their movie. I get that. They were just trying something a little bit different and new. It just didn't quite work. Now, I came out of this movie enjoying it more than I first enjoyed Man of Steel when I first saw that. That's not to say I haven't learned to appreciate Man of Steel a lot more and enjoy that movie a hell of a lot more than I did that very first time I saw it in the theater. But coming out of this, my younger son, Matt, went with me and he loved it. He is not engrossed in superhero lore, even certainly like I am, but even like his older brother is. His older brother knows a little bit more about a lot of things with these characters than what Matt does. So Matt went in it and didn't see Man of Steel and just enjoyed it, just had fun with it. Okay, I can appreciate that. I too, like I said, came out of this and I enjoyed it. So I thought the first third to a quarter was a bit of a mess. You could clearly see where they were taking a scene that could have been a Superman sequel and intertwining it with a scene for Batman just to make it a movie with, like you said, these scenes that just kind of got hodgepodge together. I did like Wonder Woman's part in the fight. I wasn't too sure about some of her little cameos throughout the movie.
Just slinking around in various evening wear.
But I get it where she's trying to go at it from a different angle like Bruce Wayne is going at it. And maybe she kind of knows who Bruce is already, maybe not, considering that she went down and took that little gadget that he planted in Lex's computer room to steal information. My end thought on Wonder Woman was I loved that they stuck that picture from her past in there, which leads into her movie.
That was cool. Yeah,
that was
I liked
good.
it too.
And I do like how she looked and acted for the fight scene, so I have hopes that movie is going to be fantastic. I also don't think Zack Snyder's involved in that one, so that gives me another little hope. Like you say, Chris, I think he does great on scenes. I'm not too impressed with his overall movie direction. As far as seeing people talk about Batman using a gun and killing people, for the circumstance that this is, and taking it from this being a 20-plus veteran Batman with a year-and-a-half young Superman, I didn't have a problem with the way he was taking down thugs. Now, if you're in a room with 15 people coming at you and they all have guns and they're shooting at you, as you grab them and they tighten their grip around everything, the guns are going to go firing and people are going to get killed. There's just almost no way around that. The part where Batman himself used a gun was the Vision. And again, a completely different possible future where, okay, you're fighting parademons and looking out for what happened when Darkseid came, because that big old Omega symbol was right there in the middle of the ground. I didn't have a problem with that because that's something that could change depending on what happened since Flash came to talk to him. And I truly don't think of that part as a dream sequence. That is a vision that was given by Flash to Bruce Wayne to say, you're right, you have to find Lois, whatever it turns out to be. That part at least made sense from my DC history lore, where Flash does travel through time, does pop back to Batman in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and tries to say something. This just seemed like something that could possibly be happening.
Shane, I agree with that. If I could jump in for just a minute. My issue with that is just as a film goer, most people going to see this movie are not familiar with that history.
No.
You have no clue what's going on.
No, and
it is so jarring, and I just felt it was well, a lot of it looked cool, and I was like, oh, that's kind of Batman and Red Sun, the coat and all that, but it was, I just thought it was so jarringly executed that it just wow, I just felt like people would be like, what the hell is going on here? You know, it just.
And I don't disagree with that. I just, to a certain extent, didn't worry about what people who didn't know what this stuff was would think, because I enjoyed it and I was fine with that. My son would ask a couple questions in the car afterward about certain ones of those scenes, and I explained it to him, and he seemed to grasp what I was telling him, and that was fine. That's not to say that I don't worry about so many people not knowing what this stuff is that they won't go to another movie, because that certainly could be a concern. But for me, seeing it right at that moment, I didn't worry about that because I understood what it meant, and I was happy with that. I didn't like that there were so many dream sequences in there, because that did seem weird, that everybody was having a dream sequence about something. While it was somewhat neat and well done, I didn't really need to be seeing Bruce's origin yet again, because we see that in every single Batman movie, it seems. But it's there, so it was a short little bit part and then in a dream sequence, so fine, that's gone. Doomsday was fine. Doomsday myself has never been one of my favorite villains, characters, even when the storyline was going on in the comics. So, love that or hate that, I could have cared less what villain it was. Yeah. The fact that it was Doomsday and they beat him is just fine for me, that it's over and done with now. Given that it was Doomsday, I expected the end to happen the way it did, whereas some people probably didn't. One of my biggest problems was Lex Luthor. I am perfectly happy with a mad scientist Lex being in there, but even a mad scientist Lex is not crazy, scatterbrained, Joker, Riddler-esque about it. I'm not saying Jesse Eisenberg didn't give a good performance, but certainly
he's an excellent actor.
It just didn't ring true with any kind of Lex Luthor that I cared to see. Now, given how he ended up at the end of the movie, I hope maybe he is more maniacal and calculating when he comes back and is less crazy, scatterbrained. And
I think, Shane, the way they set it up, he's going to be even more crazy.
Well, as long as he doesn't have this scatterbrained, nervous tick about him for everything, because that's just not what I see as Lex. And if it's not, well, then that's going to be even more disappointing as time goes on. But again, he gave a great performance. It just wasn't the character I thought it should be. He is a good actor, like you said, Chris. So I agree with more of a mediocre rating for it. If you're telling me to go on the Batman scenes, the fight scene, and how everything looks cinematically and the special effects, I'd give it probably a B. Given an overall rating of a movie, the way they cobbled it together, I'd give it a low C, only because you can clearly see, at least in my opinion, and I think most of you would agree, it was a Superman sequel that they chopped and diced into a Justice League prequel.
Oh, without question.
And again, I commend them for trying to do something in a different way so that you're not just copying what Marvel's already done. It just didn't work because I think, like you said, they rushed through it. They put too much into it. My other problem, while I didn't mind that Bruce stole information from Lex and found files about certain heroes, okay, I didn't necessarily think those 30-second clips meant anything. I thought that was completely forced and out of place.
Oh, of course it was forced and out of place.
I would have been perfectly happy just seeing those symbols and then moving on. And to me, after, and I guess if we're spoiling it, I guess after Superman dies and you get to the end of the movie, what they should have had was a credit scene where you saw these heroes coming up into take the place, do heroic things, and the Daily Planet would run headlines saying, "Man from the ocean saves this or that." That would have made more sense to me than the way they did that. That whole part of including these people to lead to a Justice League movie just made no sense at all. I would have rather seen them become more heroic as a result of what happened to Superman.
So you're telling me that Superman dies at the end of this movie?
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
just like he does in the Doomsday
It's Doomsday.
storyline. I mean, it is the Doomsday storyline.
Well,
Can't wait to see this movie.
Oh, Danny, you're gonna drink. You're gonna drink a lot. Let me tell you.
I am not paying to see this movie, but I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, Shane. Please.
that totally surprised me too, but again, going from my knowledge, it made somewhat sense that I understood why they did it the way they did it. I just don't think it was a good move to do it that way.
So is he going to come back in Justice League as 4 different Supermen?
I hope they skip that
that would
part,
be fun, actually.
but I do think he will be back through some other means that we don't see.
Based on
And,
the
and you know what, Shane? And then I'd love to hear Murd's take before I have to depart. What I think what mitigated his death was that they'd done so little with him throughout the film that you didn't feel his death the way I think you should have. And I'll jump back to there was a scene earlier in the movie where he's performing an heroic feat. I think he's in Mexico and he lands, and all the people gather around him in awe.
Yeah, and start
And they
touching
start
him.
touching him, and I actually started to feel emotional because, like, my God, like that's Superman. Like people, like that's like there was just not enough of that in this film. And by the way, I love Hans Zimmer's score for the Superman films. These new, I think it's epic, and it captures just the epic feel of this godlike alien among humans. But there just wasn't enough of that. It was him like saying something to Lex was like, "I'm gonna kill you or break him." Like what? Like who is this person?
But
It was. Anyway, go ahead.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm still saying I came out of it enjoying the movie. My older son now wants to see it. I'm happy to go take him and see it again because, again, I want to grab onto those Batman scenes and really look around at what was going on with them and see what detail I can pull out of that and watch some of the fight scenes again. I also think the lighting, while most of this stuff happens at night, it is too dark of a movie in lighting.
well,
It's hard to
literally
see
and
things.
figuratively, it's too dark.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. But I still did come out of the movie enjoying it well enough that I'm going to be happy to go see it again and watch it subsequent times as July and August march on.
Well, Shane, to piggyback on that, when they show Batman hanging on the wall in that first action scene, like the lights are flashed, like I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And then at the end, when he appears in Luthor's cell, he's scary.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a fantastic interpretation of like the Dark Knight, essentially.
Yeah.
So I also dug scenes like that. I'm sorry, I'll shut up. Murd, please continue.
Okay. Well, I think, but between your two reviews, I probably skew a little bit closer to Chris's reaction because I was pretty disappointed in this movie. Also, I mean, I didn't out and out hate it, which is sort of my litotic way of saying that it's not as bad as it possibly could have been. But my goodness, did it ever try my patience? Yeah, I was actually I kind of had you mentioned how you thought the first part of the movie was something of a mess. I'm just the opposite, Shane. I was actually kind of on board for at least like the first act, roughly, give or take. I thought that the way they started building things, establishing things, it was at least coherent. Could follow along with it. I do give some credit to the screenwriters. I was happy to see there were only 2 of them, because usually when the screenwriter credits are a list of like 5 or 6 different people, including maybe the director and his brother, that's a bad sign. But this was just David S. Goyer, who is a veteran of screenwriting and comics both. Who was assisted by someone named Chris Terrio, a name I did not recognize. And I think they did a pretty good job holding this enormous mishmash together, this hodgepodge, as Chris called it. It's really kind of an everything but the kitchen sink approach to putting all of these characters together. And, when Danny speculated that maybe when they bring Superman back from the dead, they'll just bring Superboy and Steel and Eradicator and all those people with them. I'm not ruling that out at this point, because they just threw so much at the wall in this movie. But they held it together well enough for at least the beginning of it. We saw some flashbacks to the Man of Steel movies, which they mainly included as an explanation, however threadbare, for Bruce Wayne's feeling of powerful animosity towards Superman, which I thought was expanded beyond all rational sense or plausibility. I mean, I can readily enough believe that Batman would realistically respond by being very wary and paranoid about Superman, and even putting contingencies in place, such as the kryptonite spear, to use against him if necessary. But to foment that to the point of outright bloodlust on Batman's point later in the movie, where he's actually gunning for Superman, planning to murder him because of the threat he might pose to global safety. I mean, this is the world's greatest detective here. You'd think he'd at least ask around, learn a little bit more about the situation, the circumstances, and determine that this all-powerful godlike alien was actually trying to save the planet. Yes, thousands of people did die in Metropolis, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse if Superman had not intervened. So, the fact that he's got this mad on for Superman is a little out of character, and Superman's having this much milder but still very present vendetta against the Bat of Gotham, when there are so many other things in the world that should be bothering. And that's one of a laundry list of things that are out of character for Superman in this movie, as Chris has already attested to in his commentary. And I completely agree with much of what he said about the portrayal of the Man of Steel here. He's unrecognizable. I have yet, since Christopher Reeve, I've not seen a Superman in the movies that I can really say does justice to the character. And why on earth so many writers feel this need to write Superman as a dumb animal? I totally feel what you're saying about him not talking enough in this movie, Chris. It also goes back to Brandon Routh in Superman Returns. It goes back to Tom Welling on Smallville. Can't Superman be articulate? I mean, he's a journalist for a living, for crying out loud. Anyway, though, the setup of the first act I thought was actually well done, well laid out. But then we get to that first sort of digressive scene of the dream vision / prophecy, the dream sequence / prophetic vision that Batman has of himself in a trench coat, wielding guns, killing people in an alternate future in which apparently, as you pointed out, Shane, there's a big Omega sign carved in the desert sands. Parademons are all around. And Superman has apparently become a lieutenant of Darkseid, and things are really bad on Earth. And then we had that confusing vision with the Flash. That really did. I agree with what's been said about the introduction of the various Justice League characters. They are, as Matt would say, crowbarred in there. It's obtrusive as hell, but at least it's self-contained and short. I mean, it could be worse. They could have tried to actually give Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman roles in the film, as they did with Wonder Woman, which I thought worked out pretty well, actually. I mean, I thought Gal Gadot looks the part pretty well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
She's got that. She's Israeli, I think, so that accent is going on there. So visually, at least, we'll need to see more of what she can do as an actor. But from what little we've seen, I'm, like you, Shane, excited for that Wonder Woman solo feature. It's going to be set during World War I, apparently, which is an interesting choice.
Yep.
Nice.
But yeah, that scene set in the future was the beginning of the end for me. It was that marked where things began to go off the rails, and it marked the long, continually accelerating, steady decline into absurdity for the movie. That's when the writers started to lose control. That's where the intrusive meddling of studio concerns, as you pointed out, Chris, begins to take hold. The next scene we see is when Batman goes on this big car chase to get the kryptonite sample that Lex Luthor had imported. And there's the first confrontation between the two characters, in which Superman says something to the effect of, next time they show that light in the sky, don't go to it. The bat is dead, bury it. And
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's what on earth has Batman done to invoke Superman's ire? Why is he being so confrontational? The Batman you can almost understand, but Superman in that scene, I'm convinced that they shot that scene before the story of the movie had even been written for promotional purposes, and it felt badly out of place. And then things, the incongruities just keep going thicker and thicker on the ground as we go forward. I mean, there's so much in this movie that just doesn't make sense, does not stand up to scrutiny, so many elements of plot and character that are awry. And I agree with the comments on both sides from both of you about Lex Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg did turn in a pretty good performance as the demented genius that is whoever the hell he is, because he's clearly not Lex Luthor, as his performance is, well, the way the character is written, I should say, is not in line with any established characterization of Lex Luthor that's appeared anywhere in the past 75 years. I think it's a good character, but it's more like I take that back. It's not a good character. Eisenberg made it seem more like a good character than it was. But he seemed more like Lex Luthor's annoying little brother who's been hopped up on Joker venom, because I absolutely see the similarity between this version of Luthor and the Joker. I think probably because this is a Batman and Superman movie, and the general consensus among, fanboys everywhere is that Joker is a cooler character than Luthor. They decided to skew it in that way, so that we had...
I think that's silly, because when you look at like the corporate Lex Luthor, the Machiavellian Lex Luthor, he's a fascinating villain. Mm-hmm. Absolutely fascinating. I mean, he was president, for Pete's sake. There's so much you can do with Lex Luthor as he's established. I mean, hell, think of how great Lex Luthor was in Smallville. Yeah. I thought that was a magnificent interpretation.
Yeah. Or my favorite version of Lex Luthor, the Elliot S. Magan-driven renegade scientist with the purple and green jumpsuit of the 70s. But yeah, any one of those would have been fine. They're all fascinating interpretations. What we have here is more of a, Maverick Silicon Valley Mark Zuckerberg. Yes, by no coincidence, since Jesse Eisenberg played that character in The Social Network.
And played it quite well.
Yeah. But instead what we have here is, even putting aside the fact that we're disappointed that it's not in keeping with other ways Luthor's been portrayed in the past, the character itself, as written, is just kind of generic crazy person, like the maniac as villain, who just, as disappointed as I was in the lack of explanation for why Batman would be so hostile towards Superman, we get almost no justification for why Luthor hates Superman so much in this movie that he's willing to murder numerous innocent people just to make him look bad.
Well, hell, he blows up an entire government building, essentially.
Yeah.
Including sacrificing Mercy in doing so. His female sidekick.
Right. I'm not convinced that she's
I have to depart. I just really wanted to hear part of Bird's take. But I apologize. I must depart because I have to pick up my kids.
All right.
So,
all right, Chris.
Take care.
My friends, I will talk to you all soon.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
I'm not convinced that we won't see Mercy back, because what we have is a very well done android of some kind, much like she's portrayed in Young Justice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because she was kind of wasted in this movie.
Absolutely.
All she did was hang around and look menacing.
Once we found out it was Mercy, I'm like, all right, oh, she just got killed. Crap.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that was who she was supposed to be. But
I did too.
She was not given much to do. She was, kind of like Wonder Woman herself, actually. She just kind of hung around wearing various dresses and...
Well, and what I
vaguely menacing.
What I mean, Murd, when I'm thinking of the fact that the first part of the movie is a mess to me, is once you get towards the middle to the end, it at least went in one direction to create Doomsday, to fight, to stop Luthor, to stop Doomsday. That's where I felt the beginning scenes, while, again, I love the Batman ones. They could almost do no wrong. But they were everywhere, where they tried to take a Superman sequel and put it with a Batman movie and maybe throw in Wonder Woman there for the party. So that's the part that was crazy to me. They weren't bad scenes separately, but...
It was a little unevenly stitched.
That's where it was a mess for me.
To me, Shane, what held the second part of the movie together, and just barely, it was just momentum, really. It was just like a snowball running down a hill covered with manure. The first part of the movie may have appeared uneven and crazily stitched together, but at least it did hang together. It was just... There was so much action happening in the latter acts of the movie that it didn't give you that much time to stop and think about the inconsistencies that kept piling up. So I think that might be why you responded the way you did. It's just my theory here. But yeah, it just got sillier and sillier as it went. And then, of course, the big fight scene that everyone had been waiting to see between Batman and Superman. And yeah, just people acting more and more and more out of character as time passed. And And then Superman getting badly beaten by Batman, which as a Superman fan I didn't much care for to begin with, and then his life being saved by nothing more than the huge coincidence, just now noticed by Brian, that Batman and Superman happened to have the same earthly mothers. Just the coincidence, basically, that Martha was a common name among women who were becoming mothers in the early part of the 20th century, and therefore that name was chosen for the mothers of these two characters. That's what saved Superman's life.
Given how that movie was progressing, the only reason I liked that was because it snapped Batman out of this craziness that you speak of.
Yeah, and where did that craziness come from?
Right. But at least it stopped.
Yeah, but if he's so concerned about the threat Superman poses, wouldn't you think realistically that he would go ahead and execute Superman no matter what his mother's name happened to be?
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that he wondered how Superman knew his mother's name, already knowing his name, which that part, Superman or Clark Kent figuring out who Bruce was, I liked that part well enough. That was interesting.
Well, I think I must have missed it. How did he figure out that?
He was listening in the party. He was hearing somebody talk.
Yeah,
and it was Alfred in Bruce's ear, and he figured it out that way. To me, very much like he figured it out in the Batman Superman Adventures TV movie from the cartoons, when Batman Adventures and Superman were first coming together as an hour-long thing, where you had him kind of peek under the cowl, and Bruce says, you peeked, knowing full well that he can and would. This rang kind of similar to me in that way. So that part I kind of liked in that party setting.
Yeah. Everybody knowing everybody else's secret identities, though, is just...
I think way too many people know everybody's
sustainable
identity
state
right
of
now.
affairs. So.
Yeah.
Of course, Luthor, as we've said, went completely nuts by the end of the movie, so he's not going to be telling anybody anything.
And that made no sense to me, why he knew everybody's everything right there all of a sudden. I really didn't like that. That
added
as
to the long list of things that didn't make sense. And then Batman tossing the kryptonite spear on the ground instead of taking it with him. That's another hole, but that's we don't want to start picking nits here. We'll be here all night.
Yeah.
And then the whole big climactic fight. By that point, I guess what I'm saying here, what I'm getting at, is this movie really needs to be enjoyed, if it's going to be enjoyed at all, on the level of spectacle rather than story. Because narratively, it's kind of, it's even speaking objectively, like you, Brian, and like Chris, I tried to go into these things with as much of an open mind as possible, but even speaking objectively, by the end of the movie, it was just kind of a hot mess. And so that final scene... It was really kind of a big... I'd compare this movie to a couple of different things. Right? On one level, it's something like a golden age comic book story, in that little things like plot, character, coherent theme, things like that, took a back seat to just raw, adolescent creative energy poured into them by the young men who at that time in comics history were creating all of these comics. Some of them not out of their teens yet. And this movie is indeed dripping with adolescent energy and angst and the will to see things blow up. So it's on that level, it was kind of satisfying. And just to bring in what Chris said about Hans Zimmer's score, assisted by Junkie XL, who produced most of the music from the Deadpool movie, actually. Okay. I enjoyed that quite a bit, too, the epic qualities that Zimmer brings to scores. But I also liked it. There were certain passages that had an unmistakably melodramatic flair to them. It almost sounded like the musical accompaniment to an old, 19th century theatrical melodrama or a silent movie. Just in the over-the-top melodramatic qualities of some of the chords that were struck. It was almost as if the composers, and I'm laying this at the feet of Junkie XL, whom I know to have a sense of humor, that he might have been poking a little bit of fun at just how turgid and silly the goings-on were happening, and maybe having a little bit of fun with it. Yeah, so I kind of enjoyed the score for that reason. And then, of course, the great crescendo of the events reach when Doomsday shows up, who is an apt visual metaphor for the entire movie, I think, in that he's this huge, misshapen behemoth, hybridized from a bunch of different incompatible elements and reeking of the ego of his creator.
Yeah.
And so, ending up killing Superman, because that's kind of what this movie did on a couple of levels, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm completely in accord with Chris about how Superman was badly out of character. The poor guy was barely allowed to speak. He wasn't, over 2 movies now within the last few years, he wasn't able to perform a single unambiguously successful act of heroism. He saved Metropolis from the Kryptonians, but thousands of people died. He saved Lois Lane from terrorists in Africa, but people died. Like, the only clear victory he had, the only unsullied act of heroism he was able to perform was that rescue of that little girl from that fire in Mexico that happened in this movie. But even that was rendered weird and dark by the fact that he descends from saving the little girl's life, and he's immediately surrounded by creepy people with skull face makeup on their faces in the middle of this Day of the Dead festival. So it becomes associated with death, which in a way is kind of foreshadowing for what happened to Superman by the end of the movie. But he's not able to have any clear victories. He's not able to triumph. He's not able to take any joy in doing right by others. It's like they have no idea what to do with this character. They have no idea how to sell him to the public. They don't know what the public thinks of him. They don't even know what the public in the movies think of him, because the filmmakers can't even decide whether the public likes him or hates him. I mean, there's all these protesters screaming for his blood, wanting him exiled from Earth, and then by the end of the movie, when he dies, they all seem to decide simultaneously, he died, he must have been a hero all along. And they hold a tearful candlelight vigil for him, and they bury him with full military honors at Arlington Cemetery, and
yeah, which made no sense.
Yeah, like a few weeks ago, you wanted his head on a pike, and now this is happening. I mean, is he a hero? Is he a menace? Make up our minds for us here, please, filmmakers. And please make the right decision. Yeah, so that was bothersome, and as I've said at enough length by now, I think it all just kind of degenerated into one massive spectacle. But it wasn't quite as bad in the disaster porn category, as Matt liked to say about Man of Steel, as the Man of Steel movie was. But I join with you and with Chris, and I think with Matt too, that we got this movie instead of a second Superman movie, in which we could at least redeem Superman a little bit from the Man of Steel and its events. We were hoping that we'd see more of Superman being morally troubled by what happened in that movie, but it seems Batman is the only one who cares about or remembers what happened in the Man of Steel movie. They use it as an excuse for this, bloodlust he has for Superman, but Superman himself doesn't seem to be thinking about what happened to the people of Metropolis that much. He doesn't seem to. I don't know what bothers him. I don't know what his value system is. That bit where he's sitting there saying, I don't think Superman was ever really real. It was just a dream of my father. Not only is that not something Superman would say, it's not something the Superman of the Man of Steel movie would say. Because his father in that movie, it was a nice little cameo by Kevin Costner.
It was a nice little cameo.
And this was unexpected, and it was pleasant. I thought you'd like it. It's a father and son moment. But he wanted Superman to Clark, to keep his powers a secret, to just do what he needed to do to keep himself safe, just live a nice, boring, quiet, unexceptional little life, and just avoid the world coming to get its claws into him to try to use him for his powers. He didn't really want Clark to get out there and help people and be a living symbol of truth and justice or what have you. So to say that Superman was his father's dream is not even accurate, not even for the mythos of these movies. So, by gosh, it was. There were parts of the movie that I enjoyed. I mean, I agree that Ben Affleck was very believable as an older Batman and Bruce Wayne. I'm just sorry that he wasn't written more believably, but that's a problem that's pretty much universal to this entire movie. I agree that Jeremy Irons made a great Alfred. Found some great middle ground between the slender, well-groomed gentleman's gentleman of the comics and the more brawny, special services veteran we've seen in places like the Gotham TV show and the huge muscular bowler derby wearing Alfred from Beware the Batman.
Yeah.
Amy Adams was believable, but not that memorable as Lois Lane. Lawrence Fishburne was a great Perry White. There were some good performances. The effects on the whole were pretty good, although the CGI was spotty at spots. So if you enjoy action and destruction and all of that, this is clearly something for the video game generation, more so than for fans of our generation. And so I came away from it feeling, dazed, tired, a little disgusted, a little irritated. The whole death of Superman thing, I didn't see it coming. I'm glad you did, Shane, but I didn't see it coming, and it disappointed me still further because, A, it's not going to last. Yeah. They need Superman back for the Justice League movie eventually. And B, because it just showed once again how little anybody working for Warner Brothers right now apparently knows what to do with this character. So they just treat him terribly in this movie, put him as far out of character as they can, and then just do what they did back in 1992 and make him relevant and interesting by making him dead. It's really discouraging.
Now, that's not to say that I begrudge anybody who, I came out of it enjoying it well enough. I completely understand people who come out of it and didn't enjoy it at all. that's just opinion, and I have no problem either way. I have more of a problem that I don't have much faith in the Justice League movie, given that Zack Snyder's in charge of both of those,
Yes.
which bothers me quite a bit. But we'll see how that shakes out as time marches on.
Yeah, I'm still kind of looking forward to not only Wonder Woman, but whatever other solo movies they come up with.
That there's a clip out there. It's a few minutes long about the Wonder Woman movie, and you see some behind the scenes things. You see Chris Pine talk a little bit about it. You see Gal, what's her last name? Gadot talk about it. That's a great clip. If you can find it, I think you should watch it. I know you would and not get that too, but it is a great clip, and it gave me a lot of hope. It gives me a very Captain America First Avenger vibe, being set in World War I in this case. But I just think that there's just a few minutes I saw, it looked much better than anything I saw leading up to Batman v Superman in any trailers or little scenes at all. Another part of me is I had such low expectations going into this movie that the fact that I enjoyed some of it was nice surprise for me, because even the day before, Carlene had said some coworkers were talking about it at her work and wondered what I thought about it. I'm like, well, I don't have a real good feeling about it. And Matt's like, but we're still going. I'm like, yeah, we're still going. I'm going to go see it, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be that good. So just the fact that some of it was better than I thought is probably more of my rose-colored glasses coming through that, my God, I didn't hate it kind of thing, because I thought leading into it looked like a train wreck completely.
Yeah, that's commonly held opinion, and it was, we must admit, better than it could have been, but still not that great. Yeah. And I'm glad that Matt enjoyed it enough to want to see it a second time.
And Ben wants to see it, and I'm happy to go see it again.
Going to it as a Batman fan, I think maybe you'll walk away a little happier about it than a Superman fan like myself.
And we were in full Batman regalia. Matt and I both had shirts on. It was a lot of fun. He had a good time with it. Because he has a sweatshirt. I'm like, do you want Batman or Superman? He's like, Batman. All right.
No, naturally.
We're going as Batman.
He is kind of the winner anyway. So, but I've seen some of the cross promotion for some of the toy commercials that are out for tie-in merchandise, and I've noticed that it's weighted pretty heavily on the Batman side. Like the action figure line, there's like 6 different variant Batmans, like one Superman, one Lois Lane.
That's a Batman.
So it's clear they know well who Warner Brothers is backing as the favorite horse in the fight. I was a little worried going in they might be trying to just turn Superman into just another member of Batman's rogues gallery. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was bad enough. Now, Brian, you haven't had that much to say so far, can you?
I haven't, and I won't. I can't. You guys, I can't say anything to that.
Can you at least give us an idea whether or not you liked it?
I did not care for it, no.
Did not care for it, okay. Well, suppose we do frickin' Swear ratings.
Chris sent me a text. His frickin' Swear was 2.5.
Okay.
I would give it a 3, 3.5.
2, not a penny more.
Brian? I understand that.
Probably 2.5. Yeah, I can't articulate anywhere near as well as you guys can, so why bother? And it's also very late, and I'm very sleepy.
I am looking forward to if they do
Not that late, but I've been up since 5:30.
Well, that and just in terms of running time, we're getting up there now.
Well, it's 1600. Da, da, da.
Yes, special.
I'm looking forward to if they do a Batman solo film with these characters and get a good story going with somebody different directing. I think that could have some great potential.
Just allow Ben Affleck to play Batman without there being ulterior motives and studio objectives to
sorry, one more little thing.
Sure.
I'm totally looking forward to his little cameo in Suicide Squad.
Say what?
Oh, yeah.
Why did you say, what the hell is the matter with you?
I completely forgot about that.
Dirty, rotten so-and-so.
I see it, and there's a clip that you see it. I'm sorry.
Little...
All right, we'll just forget that part.
Are we all planning to go see Suicide Squad?
You know, I wasn't going to go see it in the theater. I thought, it's Suicide Squad. I'll see it when I see it. However, that last trailer, I won't say anything. That last trailer turned my mind. I'm like, you know what? That actually looks kind of fun.
Is that the one with the... no, it's nothing to do with the plot. The one with Bohemian Rhapsody in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was fun.
That was a great trailer. And it really changed my mind on it a little bit. So, yeah, I'll probably go see that one in the theater now.
Looks good to you, Danny?
I don't know. We might go see it, but...
I think it looks like less of a train wreck than what this did going in.
Yeah, neither of us had any interest, and I was like, I really don't feel like wasting my money to see this. I'd rather just... It's more of a wait till it comes out and I can stream it.
Yeah.
Well, as Chris said,
I understand that too.
When you get around to streaming Batman vs. Superman, do have substances on hand.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to have a fun drinking game to this movie. But actually, I'm excited for the the special edition R-rated version of Batman vs. Superman.
How much further over the top can they push
Yeah,
it?
Yes,
that-
I want to see how ridiculous that gets.
I think that's a bit unnecessary and rides on the coattails of, oh, Deadpool did great. Let's make an R-rated version. All right, whatever.
Oh, I forgot to say the other thing that this, in addition to a Golden Age story, the other thing this movie reminded me of was like a big kaiju battle. Because by the end of it, it had all the nuanced character development and artistic subtlety of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah,
Wow.
featuring Wonder Woman as Jet Jaguar.
Okay.
I know when to keep my mouth shut, and this is one of those times because I can't. Oh boy, good. No, I mean good guys who did fantastic, and gals, and everybody else, and just sit here and look pretty. Anything?
buttons.
Yeah. Anything else to say? Promote? Anything else? Going once?
No, there was something I wanted to say I read, but I don't think it was anything other than Darkside War. I was reading the most recent issue of that.
Okay.
I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, that'll take us into this episode. Thank you for listening. And who was our sponsor once again, Mr. Murdo?
Our sponsor is the Collection Drawer Company, whose website may be accessed at collectiondrawer.com. Go there and survey their selection of fine collector accessories, especially the Drawer Box, the easy access storage solution, a long box with a drawer in the front of it for easy access. Tell them Comic Geek Speak sent you.
All right, visit us at comicgeekspeak.com to send an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com to check out our forums and let us know what you liked or didn't like about Batman v Superman.
Which already is a long
Oh, there's
thread.
huge
Oh,
one.
the internet is covered with it.
And Rebirth and all the cool stuff we talked
Daredevil
about, TV
season
shows.
2, yep, that's also
Definitely watch that Supergirl Flash episode. That was a
yes.
hoot and a half.
No. I was 2.5 hoops.
2.5 hoops?
2.5
I'll give you 2.5 hoops.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Thank you to everyone who participates in the show, listens, sends emails. We appreciate it. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was talking about it, going to the volume up. These guys will talk about it, everything that geeks love. From cakes to laser beams, opinions like the seasons, on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is Comic Geek Speak.
I'm Batman.